Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, you know, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now. Here's VOCM Open Line host Paddy Daly.
Well, all right, and good morning to you. Thank you very much for tuning into the program. It's Friday, June the 14th. This is Open Line. I'm your host, Paddy Daly. David Williams producing this. Come on with an edition of the program. So if you're in the St. John's Metro region, the number to dial to get in the queue and on the air, 709-273-5211. Elsewhere, it's toll-free long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM, which is 8626. So as you heard Brian Medore saying the VOCM newscast, stranglehold on the Stanley Cup Finals now. The Florida Panthers up 3-0 over the Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers probably deserved a better fate last night, but they're down 3-0 in the series. The last time a team came back in the Stanley Cup Finals from a 3-0 deficit, you got to go way back. 1942, the Toronto Maple Leafs came back to beat the Detroit Red Wings in 7 games. Some of the members of that team, the leading scorers on the 42 edition of the Leafs, Lauren Carr and Billy Taylor played every game in the regular season that year, which was 50 games. They had 60 points apiece. One of the famous names on that team, Sillaps. Sillaps, of course, remember the Canadian Hall of Fame, the Hockey Hall of Fame, and so 42 is a long way away. All right, for cricket fans, all of a sudden I'm a cricket fan. Canada up at it again today in the T20 World Cup of cricket. They got India today after coming off a pretty good effort against Pakistan, and for soccer fans, of which there are many in this country, in this province. So the Euros kick off today, the European Cup. After the World Cup, probably the most prestigious tournament in the world. So the host Germany kick off against Scotland today in Munich. And interestingly enough, it was 868 years ago today that the city of Munich was founded on the banks of the Isar. So the Euros kick off today. It's a month-long tournament. The finals are to the 14th of July. And this is a fascinating story that I'm kind of following along a little bit. And I know the IOC and a lot of the things surrounding the Olympics are corrupt, but I try to focus in on the athletics simply because I enjoy the competition. So they're still planning on having some of the swimming events in the Seine. If you've ever been to Paris, you know full well the Seine is absolutely polluted. It's disgusting. I can't believe people want to swim it. Now, they've had a couple of swimming events in the river since they've tried to clean it up. So marathon swimmers, triathletes are going to swim in that polluted river. They've tried to do a few things, like a big catch basin for rain outside, I think it's called the Austerlitz train station. Now, President Macron and Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo have said they're going to have a dip in the Seine to show the world that it is safe, but that is pretty gross. And someone sent me a clip from a blog talking about the pay that's afforded to Olympic athletes, especially when they medal. You know, the broadcasters make oodles of money off of the athletes' performances, so why wouldn't we be paying the athletes? I mean, think about it. The lifetime devoted to the sport of their choice, and, you know, you see Olympians who all of a sudden become household names, working part-time at Home Depot or whatever, just to be able to pay the bills. So for Canadian athletes, if you stand on the top step of the podium, it's 20 grand, silver 15 grand, 10 grand for the bronze medal winners, but you want to take that on? We can do it. And a quick baseball note, the Jays didn't lose last night, basically because they didn't play. On this date, 1969, Oakland A's slugger, Mr. October, Reggie Jackson, 10 RBIs in a 21-7 victory over the Red Sox. The record for RBIs in the game, 12. 2 guys have 12. All right, let's keep going. So I had cause to be in the downtown core yesterday afternoon, and the work is at a furious pace at the National War Memorial. There looked like there was a few dozen people working on site, and one notable person on site yesterday is Morgan MacDonald. So I don't know if you are aware of Morgan MacDonald's work, but it's absolutely stunning. The bronze statues that he's peppered around the city and other parts of the country are simply amazing pieces of art. So whether it be the rower down at Kitty Vitty, some of the statues in Bannerman Park, and now his task, of which he says is a great honor, is to try to refurbish and bring back the 5 bronze statues at the National Memorial back to their past glory. So you've seen the greenish tint, the patina. So he's going to clean them up to make them look like they initially did look, and I think they were first installed in 1923. So Morgan MacDonald does absolutely amazing work. Now the question also will be, whether or not they're going to be ready. I mean, fingers crossed. It's just so important to hit the mark for the centennial ceremony at the National Memorial. And so even if you wanted to talk about the fact, surrounding some of the issues and the unknown soldier and the repatriation of the remains, which I think is fascinating. And then, of course, we were told yesterday that Princess Anne will be visiting. She's going to arrive on the 30th of June. She'll be there in attendance on the 1st of July. And I think that also begs the question about what the future of the monarchy actually holds in this country, but Princess Anne coming. All right, so apparently there's an update coming today on the future for the site that housed the Grace Hospital nurses' dorm. And of course, that has been shuttered and abandoned for years. And it became a real hangout and obviously problematic inside. You can only imagine the mess inside that building. And as it was being torn down, the people in the neighborhood talked about some of the toxic pieces that have come across from the demolition site. Anyway, so you wonder what the update will hold. Now, we have been told that the site is not big enough to hold a footprint of what would be the replacement for St. Clair's Hospital. An announcement that just came out of absolutely nowhere. But I do think it's worthwhile for us to give further consideration to what is now the go-to mechanism for public infrastructure is the whole private-public partnerships, the P3s. It's the go-to. It's not that long ago any mention of it found furious political backlash. Not anymore. Everybody seems to be accepting of it. So whether it be with the replacement for the penitentiary, hospitals, long-term care facilities, divided highways, the P3 conversation is absolutely up for discussion if you're so inclined. All right, so the PUB this week is holding hearings regarding Newfoundland Power's rate hike applications. The application is for 1.5% this year, 5.5% next year, and most importantly, I think, would be the rate of return. So Newfoundland Power already guaranteed an 8.5% rate of return. That's some $48 million annually. They're looking to bump that up to 9.85% by next year. So that's over $60 million at that point, making over $1 million a week, as quoted by the consumer advocate, Dennis Brown. So if you want to take that on, we can do it. Also, in that world, the PUB proposal for gas price or fuel price changes, again, just for context, if they go with the proposed changes that are currently being tabled, it would be 0.7 cent increase on a litre of gasoline in St. John's. If you live on Fogo, it would be 5 cents. In addition to that, I see some people chiming in on Newfoundland Labrador Hydro's plan to meet the forecasted excess demand for power. And these should be on stream by 2034. So says Jennifer Williams, the CEO at Hydro. So there's a couple of people in the news saying that, questioning Newfoundland Labrador Hydro's forecast on the demand side, noting back to the Muskrat Falls development, the forecasted need for power wasn't really exactly what we were being told. But anyway, so whether it be the 8th generating unit at Bay d'Espoir to the tune of some $527 million, about $1 billion in full, that does not include their want to purchase some 80 megawatts of wind power, from who, at what cost, we have no earthly idea. It's not included in the $1 billion proposal. But of course, those things are meaningful to our pocketbook, and if you want to tackle it, we can do it. And some of those price point issues, of course, also bring on some potential concerns with your mental well-being. And we've had some good conversations on this program, not only yesterday, but over the years, about mental health. And we have to continue. Just 1 second, sip of coffee. We're back. So, Minister Osborne, Minister of Health and Community Services, who's soon done his political career, made a reminder to members of the Mental Health All-Party Committee and to the general public about one of the line items in the most recent budget, some $500,000 to expand online mental health programs for children and families. It's going to be expanded through the Strongest Families Institute, and their leader was on this program this morning, on the VOCM Morning Show this morning. So, Dr. Patricia Lingley-Potty, they've served some 11,000 children and youth and adults and families across the province since 2015. So anything inside that envelope of mental health, mental illness, mental well-being, you know us, we're more than happy to talk about it. The more we talk about it, the more we normalize the conversation, and that's something that is always on the front burner if you'd like to add to that particular conversation. And a couple of the other issues where you talk about supports needed for the most vulnerable. For folks like us in the middle class and upwards, we really have our own, not only our own concerns, but our own abilities to try to keep the wolves away from the door, to try to do what we need to serve and feed and protect our families. But it's the most vulnerable in society that we really have some distinct shortcomings. So in the world of trying to support people who need some additional leg up and or assistance to get into the job market, We had some conversations initially when the federal budget was released, and we saw a reduction in the amount of money coming in the labour market development or the labour market transfer agreement. So what was once $3.5 billion, there was $625 million slashed from it this year. So there's still $142 million on the table here, but that's a reduction of about $16.5 million. And I hear from some of these organizations via email or what have you, but if you're someone who has someone in your family or you yourself was supported by this program, or you're operating one of these employment services organizations, absolutely try to paint us a picture of what this really does and what this means for the people that you've served in the past and the fewer people you'll be able to serve in the future. So the labour market development, the federal government has pretty much said any shortcomings there, that's up to the provinces to create the backfill. And in this province, the government has said that they'll backstop it for 6 months, but that means in the future there'll be further reductions in that labour market transfer dollar. So anyway, there you go. Okay, so today is the final day for folks represented by the group of 22, some 4,000 plus home care workers, to cast their vote. Again, I wish people would call more on these things, but via email. And of course, this is just anecdotal, it's not scientific, but it's really feeling like a lot of the home care workers are completely displeased with the status of the contract, whether it be the rate of pay, the dragging of feet before the medical benefits are fully in place. And of course, we are told that the blame there belongs to the insurance companies. But again, a full year to install these medical benefits seems like a long, long time for that to be the reality. So if you want to take that on, because we got to get it right in home care, just like we got to get it right in long-term care. A couple more quick ones before we get to you. Oh, also, today's the deadline for the request made by the seniors advocate, that's Susan Walsh, talking about combating the concept of ageism, which is very much still one of the final socially acceptable prejudices. We just do it subconsciously, right? So, if you are senior yourself or senior in your world, please do indeed provide, say, up to 60 words in written submission to the seniors advocate, and or to send them along a little video which they can display on social media. But that whole concept is patently unfair. And like they say things like, well, 50's the new 60's the new 50, and all those types of things. People are aging much better and a better position to still do what they need to do, whether it be in the workforce or other walks of life, and contributions as volunteers and municipal leaders. And so please do indeed take the opportunity today, because today is the deadline to make that submission to the Seniors Advocate Office. All right, a couple of very quick ones before we get to you. I'm more confused than ever about the report that came from the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians, NSICOP. So we know the story that all the leaders of the major parties in the country have had the top security clearance so they can read the unredacted report, except for Mr. Polyev. So we heard from Elizabeth May, the Green Party leader. She read it and she was relieved, she said. And there was no reason to believe that any current members of Parliament had betrayed the country, sharing secrets and or classified information with bad actors representing foreign governments. Now, it is interesting that she said current, because I don't care if you're currently elected member sitting in the House of Commons. If you conducted that type of criminal behaviour in the past, we have to weed you out. You have to be taken to task, held accountable. But then yesterday, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, he read the report and he drew a different conclusion. He said he's more convinced than ever that some parliamentarians are willing participants. So which is it? Elizabeth May says nothing really to be concerned with. Mr. Singh pointing out he has some very serious concerns. He says, I'm more alarmed today than I was yesterday, having read the report. In short, there are a number of MPs who have knowingly provided help to foreign governments, some to the detriment of Canada and Canadians. Right? He also pointed a distinct finger of concern towards the Conservative Party. So what is actually going on here? These things are far too important to let slide, and they're way more important than allowing politicians to be the final adjudicator of what's problematic, what's not, who's involved, who isn't. So where to from here? I guess it just belongs in the hands of Commissioner Og as she and her team look at the foreign meddling. But again, it just further muddies the water. And the Prime Minister's had this information for quite a long time. And yet, Mum from the Liberals saying, well, they're not going to release the names. Some of the arguments therein are probably legitimate, like ongoing intelligence gathering or cooperation with our allies inside the Five Eyes. But if it's nothing to see here, but Mr. Singh is more concerned than ever, where do we go? What actually is going to happen next? Again, I don't care who you think you're going to support in the upcoming federal election, whenever that's going to be, and however messy that campaign is going to be, for our collective benefit, we all should demand that this gets resolved, whether it be in the criminal courts or otherwise. So one says no big deal, one says, oh my God, I'm shocked. All right, and this one really not that important, but it is an interesting story. Remember last spring at Toronto Pearson, the largest gold heist in Canadian history took place, over $20 million worth of gold. They've made a bunch of arrests on that front. So that's pretty fascinating stuff. A couple of Air Canada employees, because you knew it had to be part and parcel of an inside job. But a bunch of arrests have been made. So the investigation conducted by the Peel Regional Police, the U.S. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives, of course, ATF, and they intercepted a large quantity of firearms that were destined for the country. And of course, that gun control conversation, whether it be it's ham-fisted on behalf of the provincial or the federal government at this point, versus where the real focus needs to be, it's on our southern border. We know, based on the Chiefs of Police Association in the country, the vast majority of handguns that end up in the hands of criminals come from the United States. So why wouldn't that be the key focus area? Of course it should be. And this weekend is the Ride for Dad. So I think it first began in 2007. They've raised over a couple of $1 million for research and activity inside the world of prostate cancer. Brian O'Connell, our very own, is the ride captain again this year for the 10th time. So congratulations to Brian and everyone that's part of the Ride for Dad. And get your prostate checked, lads. And happy Father's Day. In case I forget to say that at the bottom of the show, of course, Sunday is indeed Father's Day. So I unfortunately lost my dad a long time ago. But for those of you who are still lucky to have dad around, whether it be to, renew your relationship or to celebrate what your dad has done for you, of course, the best part of my life, of course, is being a father. So happy Father's Day to everyone out there who is indeed playing that role inside their family. We're on Twitter. We're VOCM Openline. You can follow us there. Email address is openline@vocm.com. My favorite is when you pick up the phone and join us. Get in the queue and on the air. The topic entirely up to you. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Let's begin this morning on line number 4. Candice, you're on the air.
Hi, Patty. Yes, I'm with one of the agencies. Just wanted to let you guys know, because I heard this morning. So the deadline for the NAPE agreement was yesterday at 2 p.m.
Oh, I thought it was the 14th, today.
No, it was yesterday, and the agreement was rejected.
Was it? What's the outcome? Do you have any numbers?
So we do. I think it was like 50. What was it? It was 53. I think percent said no, and like 47 said yes. Now there was 10. The whole agreement, the whole thing is there on the NAPE website. And what was I going to say now? So it's a breakdown of all the agencies, and there was 10 agencies that voted yes, and 12 that voted no.
I can't say I'm surprised. I mean, the types of conversation, the emails I've been receiving, it felt very much like this was going to be rejected, despite the fact that NAPE recommended the acceptance.
I know, but a lot of us are actually really surprised that the numbers were so low.
I wonder what the turnout...
53.
I wonder how many people voted, because there's over 4,000 workers inside the group of 22. Was there a breakdown there of how many people actually cast their vote?
I think somebody had said it was just a little over 1,800. It was nowhere near the amount of people.
That's unbelievable. With your actual work future lying in the hands of this collective agreement, I wonder it wasn't 100%.
No, I 100% agree. And actually, my company was one of the ones that said yes, and I was not happy. And then now we don't even know, we're not certain what's going to happen next. They said we will find out within the next couple of days. But some people are actually worried that some companies that said yes are going to go ahead with the agreement. We don't know what's next.
I'm always a little bit confused about a couple of things inside these negotiations. Number one, government, which pretty much foots the bill, was not at the table, which is sort of fascinating.
100%.
They're the ultimate employer. You may indeed work for a private agency, but the world of home care is a provincial responsibility. So for them not to be there is strange. And secondly, for companies who voted yes to simply proceed with what was offered, it's a wonder how that's going to affect their workforce, whether or not they're going to want to remain working for that agency, because every agency, I would suggest, probably has open arms for a home care worker, especially experienced ones.
Oh, for sure, definitely. And I mean, I've been at this now 10 years or more, and I mean, I love my job, but it's still up in the air. Like, we still don't know what's going on. They're not after telling us whether or not that Now, some people are saying if it was rejected, it was rejected all around for the whole group 22. And some people are saying they're not sure, they're scared, like if their company is going to go ahead and accept the agreement. So we're still on the fence. We still don't know much.
Well, I suppose the next step for us, Dave Williams, is maybe we'll see if we can't get Mr. Earl at NAPE to come on and talk about what this means and what next steps are. I guess it's fundamentally back to the drawing board.
Oh, 100%. And it's up in the air, so none of us knows what's going on. All we're getting is maybe in the next couple of days, next week or something, we're going to find out. So
I really appreciate the info this morning, Candice. We're going to see if we can't get a live update from the union.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Thanks for doing this. Stay in touch.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome, Candice. All right,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye. For starters, I thought the deadline was today. My bad. But rejected. Can't say I'm surprised at all. Let's keep rolling here. Let's go to line number 2. Tracy, you're on the air.
Hi, Patty. How are you this morning?
I'm okay, thanks. How you doing?
Good. You're going to have to forgive me. I'm a first-time caller.
Welcome to the show. Take your time.
Okay, so what I called you about basically was we did a fundraiser in St. Lawrence yesterday for Colorectal Cancer Canada, and it's called Push for Your Tush. So the whole purpose of Push for Your Tush is to raise awareness and, of course, raise funding for various awareness campaigns throughout, in our case, in Newfoundland, because it is the second most common diagnosed cancer in our province and the third deadliest.
It's one of the most common cancers in the world.
It is. And numbers in Newfoundland are skyrocketing right now for lifestyle reasons, aging population. But anyway, they're really creeping up there in Newfoundland to take over as number one, which none of us really want to see at all. So yesterday we pushed our tush 5 kilometers in St. Lawrence, and we were successful at raising $3,180.
Bravo. What's your motivation, Tracy?
My husband has stage 4 colorectal cancer, and he's had it now for the last 4 years. We just completed our number 117th chemo treatment.
Oh, my God.
Right. So our whole purpose is so that no one else, hopefully, will do this again. We know there'll be others behind us, but if one person can go in and get a fit test done, it will save the world of heartache for some family out there. And that's exactly what we're trying to stop right now.
I'm due for another screening. One of the real concerns with this type of cancer is you may indeed get some warning signs, maybe blood in the stool or maybe some serious cramps. But for many, they go get the test just based on advice from their own family doctor. And next thing they know they're positive and have displayed 0 signs. So it's important to get screened, and I should be screened again here soon too.
We are one of those families that we had a fleeting symptom here, a fleeting symptom there. It didn't stay. It was very periodic. It was there and gone. It was one of those things that you said it was quiet. It was 100 other things except what it was, and it was during COVID. So that, we weren't going anywhere. Everything was shut down. So next thing you knew, we were in with a complete bowel obstruction, and that's exactly what obstructed our bowel, was colorectal cancer.
There's also a real correlation with familial colorectal cancer in this province. So if that has been part of your family's medical history, it just heightens your need to be screened. And, of course, speak to your doctor. I'm not a doctor, but if you're lucky enough to have a family doctor, talk about it, lads, and make sure you do get screened. And again, it's easy for me to say that and to be preachy, but I really need to get mine screened again here right away. So this is a reminder.
They say if you've had 50 birthday candles, that is your clue. You should call in and get your fit test. And if you don't have a family physician, you can still go on Eastern Health's website and get a fit test delivered to your home, with or without a family physician.
Okay.
After the age of 50. So there's no need for another family to find out at stage 4, if you can find out at stage 2 or stage 1, or because, Patty, it's really hard when you got 2 kids, when you sit them on the couch and you tell them you don't know what the outcome is going to be. But if you had caught it early enough, the outcome might be quite different.
100%. This is a very helpful call. Congratulations to you and everyone who was involved with the, what did you call it, the Push Your Tush?
Push Your Tush Canada, and it's actually, we were the only province in Canada that didn't have some walks on the go. So given that our family had dealt with her for 4 years, and I will say it takes a while after a diagnosis to get your feet in under view, but after you do that, you're kind of like, well, if every other province got it, we're heading up towards number 1. I think it's time for us to dip our toe in the water and see how it goes.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you making time for the show as a first-time caller.
We got 2 more, Patty.
Okay, go ahead.
We got 2 more coming up. We got there's one coming up, actually, because when I do anything, I kind of jump in with both feet. So there's one in Southern Harbour on June the 20th.
Okay.
And we are the Push Tushers.
Love it.
And there's one in St. John's, actually, on July the 5th. And we have 2 teams entered right now. They are the Pettin Pushers and the Justice League.
Where is the one in St. John's?
It's starting at Strawberry Marsh Road, right on the Pettin Building parking lot.
Okay.
At 2:30. And there's some light refreshments and all that kind of good stuff, and we hand out some information. And it's like I say, if one person sees us walking all in blue and says I should get a fit test, it will make everything worth it.
Bravo, Tracy. Thanks for calling. How's your husband?
He's gone in right now to get his number 117th chemo on Hope. So he was pushing his tush yesterday, Patty.
Attaboy.
Now, not 5 kilometers, but hey.
There you go. Thanks for the call. Say hello to your husband for me.
All right. Thank you so much for taking our call, Patty.
Thank you, Tracy. Stay in touch.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. What was that signal there, Dave? Okay, let's take a break. When we come back with a quick update on what's the status at Holy Redeemer School. Of course, there was a chemical smell identified. They've been scrambling, trying to understand and find the source of it. Apparently, it hasn't expanded to other parts of the school, but we'll get that update, and then we're talking to you about whatever's on your mind. Don't go away. Welcome back. Let's go to line number 1, saying over to the Liberal member for Harbour Grace Portagrave. That's Pam Parsons. Minister Parsons, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty, and it's great to see the sunshine and summer weather. It's a good indication that it's here, and hopefully to stay.
Hopefully so. What's the update with Holy Redeemer?
Yeah. Just want to touch base, of course, because as you appreciate, constituents are concerned, of course. It was actually on the 15th of May, just a little backgrounder here, when the report of the smell of gasoline was reported to the department, and that's in the area school, the gymnasium, the music room, and the cafeteria. So obviously the school was closed for students and hasn't reopened since. So I just wanted to give an update. I have been talking to the officials. Currently, it's the responsibility of the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure. Those are the folks, the officials that are carrying out the testing. And so the nearby gas station, that they are reporting no leaks of gas on their adjacent site. So that's been ruled out, from what I'm told. Also, transportation has engaged an environmental consultant who has performed a variety of testing, and that includes digging tests, seeking to identify the source to no avail so far. They've also engaged a second industrial hygienist to visit the site to offer their strategy and suggestion. And so to date, that I'm told by officials, that Mr. Jim Sinnott, actually, who's leading these investigations, that the smell has not expanded, but it also has not improved. So currently, they're still conducting testing. Now, the latest I spoke with the Premier last night, I had an urgent meeting with him, as well as speaking with my colleague, Minister John Abbott, as well as Crystal Lynn Howell, the Minister of Education. Again, they're still exploring, but the next step now is to drilling through the basement floor. So that's where things are. But I wanted to give an update to constituents because a lot of people are calling my office, of course, and as you can appreciate, there's a lot of concern. But I just wanted to put to bed because there's some suspicion that this may be, I guess, a step to permanently close this school. Well, Holy Redeemer has about 300 students in population, servicing Spaniards Bay and Tilton. So it's a significant school population. So I just wanted to put it out there officially on the record. The Premier also confirmed this for me last night by absolutely, this is not the case. Holy Redeemer School is not permanently closing. The Premier has told me that. He's confirmed. I have his full support on that. But as we can all appreciate, the source has to be determined, and it has to be safe, obviously, before the building can be reopened. So John Abbott also informed me that his team met with Minister Crystal Lynn Howell's team yesterday to discuss what the next steps are and what will be the bottom line if by the time the school year comes in September, what the plan will be. Now, as you know, students from Holy Redeemer are currently housed now at All Hallows in North River, Bay Roberts Primary, which is the former Coleus Point Primary School, as well as St. Peter's in Upper Island Cove. So I want to throw a big thank you for everybody, for the community coming together here for their cooperation, for parents' cooperation. Obviously, our neighboring schools, everybody is working together to make this work for our students as they can finish out their school year. And just, we're all waiting for answers. And I just wanted to reassure my constituents that I'm following up daily on this issue. So that's where things are. But I wanted to really put out there because there's been some fear, I guess, floating around on social media and whatnot. And there's been some suggestions, but I have it, directly from the Premier that the Holy Redeemer School is not permanently closing. The goal is to determine what the problem is and to reopen the building safely so everybody can get back in there, our school community in Holy Redeemer.
It's confusing that after this length of time, the source has not been identified. I'm not exactly sure what the complicating factors are, but I thought that would have been a pretty fundamental task, but obviously not.
Absolutely. I mean, me, myself, I'm certainly not an expert in conducting these tests. I'm told the air samples have been sent to labs and they're digging, and now, of course, the next step it would be to drill into the basement floor. So I mean, all we can do is wait. But that's it. I'm following up daily. But just parents, as we all appreciate. I mean, I know, Patty, you're involved with your school community. You're talking about Gonzaga a lot, about your boys and whatnot. And parents are rightfully concerned, and teachers and everybody, and even people who have no children at Holy Redeemer currently. They've approached me and they said, we really hope that this problem gets resolved. We'd hate to lose our school. I went to that school. I started school actually at Holy Redeemer. It's my hometown in Spaniards Bay. But I thought it was important to get out there and to put that to bed immediately. That is not the plan. It's not. There's no secret. There's no hidden agenda. And and everything to my knowledge has been reported to me. There's transparency on what's happening. But we're ultimately, just the unfortunate part is that there's no update. And those tests are ongoing. But be reassured, I'm going to be on this. I've also invited Minister Abbott to come out to my district at his availability to meet with some stakeholders. I've been in touch with the mayor, of course, of Spaniards Bay, and members of council as they're concerned, as well as moms and dads and guardians of children who are attending Holy Redeemer. But that is the latest. And anybody is certainly welcome to call my office at any time. Any assistance I can, help them with or find out information. My constituency office is 786-1372. But I just wanted to get out there and put that update out there because as of yet, we're still waiting on the determination of the source.
Appreciate the update this morning. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Patty.
Take care. Bye-bye. It's Minister Pam Parsons, of course, member for Harbour Grace, Portagrave. Let's go to line number 5 and say hello to a good friend of the show, Rob Strong. Rob, you're on the air.
Hi, Patty. Good morning to you, and happy Friday.
Happy Friday. You're absolutely right. Let's get into your reflections on the Energy NL conference. Vastly different than last year, where it was all celebratory tones until it wasn't. And this year, some keen focus, maybe not primarily on oil, but in fact, a lot of presentation regarding wind. What did you hear? What did you think?
Oh, it's a really interesting conference. I bet there was in excess of 1,000 people there, and Energy NL did the usual great job. Lots of interesting presentations. Yeah, all 5 proponents of the wind farm developments were spoke, and most of them, I think all of them pretty well exhibited at the exhibition as well. I guess one of the big surprises for me, and maybe you and your listeners as well, is that 2 or 3 of them talked about solar. In other words, most of the energy will be generated from the wind farms. We know that. But I think the guys at Marystown and I think the guys ABO out around Cumbridge, and it's both talked about generating up to a gig, which is 1,000 megs, from solar farms. So it's hard to believe, at least I find it hard to believe, that we can generate enough energy from solar to produce 1,000 megawatts of power. But obviously these guys know what they're doing, so that was a pleasant surprise. Some of the other things that came out, of course, is we're all still waiting for environmental impact statements to be filed or registered and filed, because they are the major source of information. When you look at World Energy GH2's EIS, I don't know how many thousand pages it is, but if you take the time to go through it, you can find out all sorts of information about the number of wind farms, the number of turbines, the height of the turbines, to where they're going to be located, and equally or more importantly, the actual physical layout of the plant. I mean, we talk about wind farms, but let's not forget that all these wind farms, all these wind turbines are to generate electricity to go into a plant which is full of electrolyzers, which of course converts water, breaks the water down to hydrogen and oxygen, and then mixes the hydrogen with nitrogen and produces ammonia. And from some of the schematics and drawings I saw this week, these are massive buildings. I mean, I think someone said, 1,000 meters by 1,000 meters. So when you look at the workforce, yes, there's going to be a large workforce for the actual wind turbines and the towers and so on. But to construct and assemble a plant by 1,000 meters by 1,000 meters, it's not hard to see how you can. Each of them are basically forecasting up to 2,000 workers. So that was an interesting part of the conference for sure.
I mean, that's one thing where people are talking about, look at the track record or the history of wind power in different parts of the world. And fair enough, but the distinguishing feature of these proposals, onshore in particular, is just the size. I mean, I can't find a wind farm that has this size and scope of windmill. I mean, it dwarfs Confederation Building. Just think about that. Those windmills will dwarf Confederation Building.
Yeah, but wait till we go offshore. I mean, the wind farms being proposed in Newfoundland are somewhere between 6 and 8 megawatts each. So they're fairly substantial. But when you go offshore, particularly in the Western Europe, offshore Norway and Sweden and Denmark and France and Britain, they're up to 18 megawatts per tower. So you think the ones on land are big? Wait till you see the ones offshore. Of course, the thing about the ones offshore, you don't see them, so maybe you'll never see them. But they're much bigger than the ones onshore.
Yeah, but I guess when we talk about the size of the Port-au-Port Peninsula versus the size of some of these offshore proposals or potential, it just comes across with a different feel and flair. I guess that's how people think about it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, footprints, yes, massive compared to offshore.
Yeah, and I'm not really sure about even the need for 1,000 megawatts to be generated by solar. And, of course, if you're talking about certain parts of this province, solar would be fairly unreliable given the obvious. Now, there's still some penetration even when there is cloud cover around some foggy conditions, but the reliability is vastly reduced with those types of conditions that are persistent around here.
Yeah, sure. We all think of South Coast basically. There's nothing proposed for the Southern Shore, so we're safe there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Patty, it was a good conference. It had lots of good speakers, and as I say, it reflects the transition, how we as an industry are moving from fossil fuel to alternate sources, and be that wind or solar or whatever. But it's part of the process. It's going to take a number of years to achieve net zero, but you can see how we're starting. I mean, all these wind farms are going to be used to produce hydrogen, so they, instead of running plants off fossil fuels or coal, they can now run plants off hydrogen, which is obviously much cleaner than fossil fuels. So refreshing to see that. But I might add that she's not over yet for oil and gas. Jim Keating at Oilco gave one of the most interesting papers I've seen in a long time relating to oil and gas. And as you know, they have been, for the last 10, 15 years, shooting a lot of seismic offshore Newfoundland. And let me just quote one of his slides. He says, and I quote, "Our team has mapped 55 prospects greater than 500 million barrels in eastern Newfoundland, 40 prospects greater than 500 million barrels in Labrador South, and 27 prospects greater than 500 million barrels in southeastern Newfoundland. So the oil is out there. The problem is, of course, will we ever get to produce it? We're not a cheap jurisdiction. When you look globally these days, you look at Middle East, West Africa, and Guyana are the three cheapest areas in the world. And Guyana, where I've spent some time over the last couple of years, their total operating costs $36 a barrel. How do we compete at that? You know, we're 200 miles offshore. We've got ice. We've got harsh environment. We've got logistic challenges. The only thing we got going for us, of course, is the quality of our oil. But still, there's lots of oil out there. Whether we'll ever get to discover it or get to produce it is anybody's guess.
Well, I think that's backed up by Equinor. I mean, they've got a massive fine on their hand. Those 5 wells out in Bay du Nord, they're talking about multiple billions of barrels, and they talked about break even at $35. And of course, oil is going to be much higher than that for the foreseeable future. So it does make it a looming question. And now Bay du Nord, Equinor did give a presentation. No real change in tune, saying they remain optimistic, they remain steadfast. They're doing their work. They're trying to reconfigure the finances surrounding Bay du Nord. Did you glean anything of interest from that presentation?
Yes, I guess yes and no. I mean, obviously we're waiting for what we call the FID, the financial investment decision, and we haven't got that yet. But the fact that they're beefing up their staff and they've issued a couple of contracts, one for subsea and one for topsides, so they're really working hard to try to make it happen. And Equinor's a wonderful company. I've known them for years as Statoil, but if anybody can make it happen, they sure can. So, and look, as you know better as well as I do, that they're waiting for this Sitka well. This well is going to be drilled this summer. That may be it. I mean, if you can add a couple 100 million barrels, that may be the catalyst that triggers the decision. So, yeah, I'm put it this way: I'm a half full person on Bay du Nord.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes on that particular front. We know that there's some exploration going on this year. ExxonMobil is out there spending about $1.5 billion, some upgrades at Hibernia and at Hebron, and doing some exploration. So we'll see if they have any luck, because the last bit of exploration done by CNOC, they came up dry. So we'll see what the exploration comes to for ExxonMobil this year. Last one before we go. This has become a new favorite of the oil and gas industry, and that's carbon capture. I mean, we're looking at it here in this province. On the west coast of Canada, they're talking about injecting carbon into the basalt rock formations. 25 years later, it becomes basalt rock. Here, we're talking about injecting it into depleted oil wells, and the Premier's really quite bullish on it, not only as a climate change tool, but also a revenue generator. The largest carbon capture project in the country just shut down. It's out in Alberta. They can't make the business model work. And plus, they were talking about 90% capture. They never made it to 60. So it really feels like a bit of greenwashing, but the industry is quite big on it.
I'm not sure if I agree with you or not. Firstly, one of the presenters at the conference identified the capacity that we have in the Jean d'Arc Basin to accommodate 42 gigatons. Now, I don't know what's a gigaton, Patty? Is that 1,000 tons, 1 million tons?
I think it's 1 million tons, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think so. After a billion, I get lost. But they've identified a potential for storage of 42 gigatons. And that's a company called Altera, actually, who run the shuttle tankers. But they're doing a project, and some of your listeners might want to Google Altera, E-L-T-E-R-A, Stella Maris. They're doing a project offshore Western Europe, offshore Norway, actually, and it's the third carbon capture project, and it seems to be moving along. It may not work in Western Canada, but maybe they don't have enough carbon. I don't know, but certainly in the North Sea, the used oil wells or the depleted reservoirs in the North Sea, they're being used. There is a consultancy firm called Rystad, which is a well-recognized Norwegian company. And again, I'm reading from another report, and it says Rystad Energy estimates that a fleet of 55 carriers will be required by 2030 to transport CO2. So It may not work in Western Canada, but it looks like it's going to work offshore Western Europe.
Well, technologically speaking, of course it can work. I guess.
But your point about how do we make money off it? And I can't get a straight answer from anybody there. I mean, if we capture carbon from the rest of Canada or Eastern Canada, and we put it in a ship, and we take it out in the Jean d'Arc Basin, and we pump it, we compress it, and we pump it down into the reservoir, how do we get paid? I haven't heard yet.
Excellent
and how much
question.
do we get paid?
And what's the emission footprint? Like, if we're shipping stuff around to inject it into the sea floor, I guess we have to do a calculation. One, how do you get paid? Number two, are we actually saving any actual emissions of carbon by shipping stuff around? So,
well, yes, but your ships these days are moving to LNG, to ammonia, to nitrogen, to hydrogen. The shipping industry is changing drastically and getting away from bunker seas and fossil fuels. So I'm not too worried about that. Whether will we ever be 100% green?
No,
I don't think so. I mean,
there's no such thing. I mean, legitimately, if we're being honest with ourselves, we only have products that are greener than others. Nothing is perfectly green. It's just not a
people
not
talk
a reality.
about green steel.
Yeah.
How do you mine? How do you mine iron ore to make the steel without some form of energy?
Yeah, of course, so it's all downstream emissions. We can do things, we can have better products for the downstream calculation, but everything comes at some sort of environmental and carbon emission costs. It's just the reality of
whether
life.
we like it or not. It's the reality of the world it is today. But I'm very cognizant, as you are too, of this whole greenwashing thing. Don't believe all you hear. I guess that's what I'm saying.
That's a good place to leave it, Rob. Always appreciate your time. Have a great weekend.
My pleasure. Take care, Paddy.
You too, pal. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, let's take a break. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Let's go to line number 6. Wayne, you're on the air. Hi, Wayne, on line number 6.
Oh, right, Paddy, let me pull over. Okay. Good morning, Paddy. How are you?
Okay this morning. Thank you. How about you?
Oh, not well.
What's going on?
I called in about a month ago there and said me red 250 cars coming on a good place there on the side of the road. Was stolen out of the driveway there in the ghouls there, and I really love your show because when you get set out there, someone sees something, and it's great. A couple hours later, a guy called back, man. He said, "Your truck," he said, "is here in this cul-de-sac." We found out who stole. A little crackhead in Kilbride. Police knows him. We knows who he is. We sort of forgive him. But this morning, when I got up to go to work into the old Costco building there, I said, "Jesus, Kev," I said, "Where's my boom truck?" I said, "Oh my God, where's your truck?" Someone stole me boom truck. I just want to put it out there. A black crane, a big black boom truck with easy lifting, 685-9020 on the side of her, on the door. We have a picture of where it went out over the curb, over a flower bed, and just was like, someone sees something. Like, I can't go to work. I need my crane. It's bad, eh?
It's pretty brazen. It's one thing to pinch someone's personal vehicle and maybe be able to get away with it and hide it, but a boom truck with clearly identified? Wow.
They're obviously planning on going to steal something with this when the timing is right. So that's hide somewhere now. I just give a police report and stuff. Someone sees something like, it's not a little boat or something, and oh man. I got the basic insurance on it, to keep me on the road. If I find it's burnt, you're put out of business. Like, that's bad, man. People are bad. Anyways, I just want to put it out there again for those listening. There, like, if someone calls me back shortly and say, "Hey, man, we found your truck. I can meet you with fistfuls of brown ones. I need my truck back." Big black boom truck with easy lifting on the side of her there, 685-9020. Call me and I'll come meet you with a fistful of brown ones.
Yeah, good on you. Because you're right. That's got some nefarious deeds coming. I mean, there's going to be an ATM at the end of that boom.
Say it again, sorry?
There's going to be something like an ATM at the end of that boom. They're doing something. You're right. They're going to commit a crime with that. I mean, it's not one of those joyrides. You steal someone's truck. Maybe there's a joyride in play, or maybe you're just a criminal. Period. But a boom truck seems very purposeful.
Like that's obviously someone that can operate it and got a class 3, and they have intent to maybe steal from you next. or whoever's listening. So,
keep your eyes peeled.
Anyway.
Call the cops if you see it.
Yeah. Thanks for your time. Have a nice day.
Appreciate yours, Wayne. Good luck. Bye-bye. Stolen boom truck. There you go. I guess, well, we can't be too surprised. Remember all the backhoe bandits that were on the go? And, of course, there's a universal key. And people can kind of figure out how to navigate some of these pieces of equipment. Not to say it's easy and everyone can do it. But, of course, they sold the backhoes for what? To beat stuff up, rob ATMs and the like. Let's go to line number 1. Sue, you're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy. How are you?
I'm doing okay, Sue. How about you?
Good, thank you.
Great.
I'm annoyed a bit. I had a call yesterday from Bell. It was supposed to have been Bell Alliance saying, we're changing now to fiber hop and it's free. So I just hung up. Now this morning, I gets up and I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I had 10 calls within a half hour. And now someone just hung up, and my line is beeping again. Someone have hacked in whatever and got my house line number. And I've had calls from Portabass, Brigus, Stephenville, Nova Scotia, 2 from St. John's, 1 from St. George, New Brunswick, 1 from New Glasgow, Nova Scotia, another one from St. John's and Point Leamington. It's unreal.
They're everywhere. It's hard to, the cynic in me thinks that every single email and every single phone call I get is someone trying to rob me blind.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
Oh, I know. I just felt like pressing 1 and saying, look, why don't you go get a real job? Get off your ass, get out there and look for a real job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I do, but let's be real here. The money that they're scamming at people is unbelievable. The Auditor General of the country said that not only are we woefully ill-prepared to deal with the rise in cybercrime, but Canadians, and they estimate only 10% of these scams were ever reported, $500 million last year. Canadians were scammed out of $500 million. So
That's
obviously
unreal.
it's quite lucrative on the other end.
Yeah, it is. Well, 2 years ago they got my number. And I had a call from Saskatchewan. A man in Saskatchewan called me, and a woman in Alberta called me. She just had moved there from Stephenville. So anyway, I said, I'm going to have some fun now. So a couple days later, back they called. I can't remember if it was Bell. I think it was Bell. And I told them. I said, you get my number. And I never said it very lightly and very pleasantly. I just demanded. And, of course, there was a few adjectives added. I said, I know this is a scam. So I was going to give my number out over the air for the seniors. Like, my heart bleeds for seniors.
Yeah, and we all owe it to each other to, share the stories of the kind of scam that you've been faced with and remind folks, like, for instance, it's always the best way to handle these things is hang up, right? Just hang up. If it's Bell, call Bell back. If they say they're calling from Visa, call Visa back. I mean, if they're real, they'll take your call, but falling for anything on air to share any personal or private information, any banking information or your social insurance number or anything of the like, just simply do not do it. Avoid at all costs. So if they say that they're calling from the Royal Bank or they're calling from Bell or they're calling from Amazon or they're calling from Visa, call them back. Just hang up.
Yeah. Oh, I do. I hang up.
Yeah, it's probably the easiest thing we can do.
Yeah, but my number, if you don't mind me giving it over the air.
If you want to.
Okay, is if they see this number on their phone, don't answer it. Do not answer it. 709-628-7828.
Yeah, and I mean, that's made it much more complicated. It used to be a real random long number that we all recognized was probably an issue, and now they've spoofed the local numbers. It sounds like the number looks like it could have come from Mary Meeting Road, when someone might be sitting in Russia or someone might be sitting in New York City. We don't know where they're coming from, or India, because we've seen some busts in India, cooperation with the Indian government. Of course, that's changed over the years. So I got to get to the news, but I appreciate the warning.
Okay, thank you so much. You have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Here we go. I guess it's come to that, hasn't it? regardless, if it's a real distinct and legitimate warning coming from whatever company you do business with, call them back. Just hang up on the call that you got unprovoked on your landline or your cell phone and just look up the number 4 visits right on the back of your credit card and call them back. Let's take a break for the news. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Let's go to line number 3. Say good morning to Master Boat Builder with the Wooden Boat Museum of Newfoundland and Labrador. That's Jerome Canning. Good morning, Jerome. You're on the air.
Thank you for taking my call, Paddy.
Happy to do it, Jerome.
Morning?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Good, boy. Number one, I'm sitting down here in Winterton at our Wooden Boat Museum, the main building where our exhibits take place. And I work mostly in the boat shop, which is on the other side of the building, teaching workshops. So it's a busy, so far, we opened there around May 17th and we closed down in September. So we've been busy to now, right? Excellent.
Both of my boys have been entertained by you building a boat down at the Rooms when you were part of that program. So I've seen you in action.
Yeah, that was back in 2005, 2007.
Yeah.
Yeah, great boat, great time.
Great stuff. So what do you want to tell us about out of the the Wooden Boat Museum?
Well, we have a number of things on the go, and I'm trying to promote our summers program. The season, like I said, is we're finishing at the end of September, but in between that, there's lots of activity. This year, as in last year, we're open from Wednesday to Sunday, 10 o'clock in the morning till 5 in the evening. Anyone who comes, there's a fee, of course, a regular fee of $10, and for seniors is $8. But anyway, we have a couple of programs on the go. We have Junior Builders, which is young people building boats and learning how to use hand tools and stuff. So we have that on Sundays and Thursdays. It's a 3-hour program, and we really like to see the children show up, and they have a great time. At least they have in the past, and I can't see why that would change. It's $25 per child, and the ages for that are 5 to 12. So that's a good program right there. We have another one, is a one-day planking workshop. Our planking workshops, like our one-day workshops, Paddy, is they're on Saturdays, so to give people a chance to leave their work and have their day off. But they can come out here, and the planking workshop is a 9 to 4. And during that planking workshop, I show people how to plank a boat. Put on a piece of plank on. We got a couple of punts that we're working on. And I showed them how to do that, which is it sounds complex to a lot of people, but after that one-day workshop, people are very confident, and almost always they've achieved one plank on that boat. We have a 16-foot rope hunt called a Rodney that we are planking this summer. We actually got 2 of them that will, at the end of the season, will go up for sale. We also have, coming up this week on Wednesday, and we have a few of those over the summer, is a dory workshop. I'm sure everybody in your audience are familiar with dories. It's a full 5-day course. This one is on June 19th to 23rd. There's another one in July, and there's another one in September. And if you're interested, of course, you can always go to our webpage and see that. They're full. The dory itself is, after 1 week, the dory is complete. So you build a dory in a week. That has a cost of $850. So if people are interested in that, that's a great program. Everyone who's done it, they really love it.
How big are the dories you build? Are they big as the 23-footers?
No, what we've come to build is one that's manageable within that 1 week, and yet at the same time, it's, when they use it, is actually a good size. It's 17 feet overall. It's a recreational dory, but it's built on the same style as a banking dory. The banking dories, like you said that time, they're much larger. We used to describe them as length to bottom, but the overall length is anywhere from 19.5 to 21 feet. Ours is 17 feet. So 2 people, quite comfortable. They were used in the Portugal Cove dory races, and we had 3 of them down there at one point. So 3 people were in it, so racing up and down their course there. But they're 17 feet overall. And the only thing we don't do in that course is paint it. Anyone who buys our dories, as Portugal Cove did, they can paint. They have to paint themselves. That's quite time consuming.
No question. Jerome, do you have people that come back or years later are still trying to dabble with boat building after being exposed to the course?
Yes, all the time. Look, it's sort of a small group of people, as you can well imagine. Wooden boat lovers, worldwide are, we keep track of each other through the social media. But the people who participate in our courses, I see them all the time. As a matter of fact, we have a lot of people who do both the punt building one. You probably know of that one, Paddy, talking to Jim. That was our MUN course. They actually they actually, there's 6 or 7 of them right now in St. John's, 6 or 7 people in their little shops building this same punt or a punt that would belong to their own family. So, and we keep in contact, we make visits, this kind of stuff, the Wooden Boat Museum through me, just to give them some encouragement and also some enjoyment trip for anybody who loves boats.
It's unfortunately, in part, a bit of a lost art.
It is, but there's a lot of support. You're here today that we're still at it. Wooden Boat Museum, and we this is we're dedicated to teaching people that old way. The thing about the building of it, everyone says right now, if you need to know something about electrical or plumbing or fix a car, go on YouTube. The internet is full of boat building. And a lot of those ones, we're there too, of course. The art of it and how to get those skills is on the internet, but you can't beat a hands-on workshop experience that we offer here in Winterton. That's a given, and that's the way I learned. I didn't learn through YouTube. YouTube didn't exist in the 70s. I learned by just looking and listening, and so that's how I learned, and that's how you learn if you come down here to our workshops. But it is dying. It once was everywhere. Every community had a boat builder, or 2 or 3 or 4.
Sure.
Now there's only a few people that are doing it, sadly.
Well, the Marcus French Rodney is a beautiful boat, period.
No, it's a gorgeous boat. It's a sort of piece of perfection because it's an old style punt, that existed and was perfected for oar and sail prior to the engines, inboard and outboard engines. So we have hundreds of years of that boat being tweaked to arrive at Marcus French, and there's other punts similar, on the Fogo Island punts. There's some similar, and they well know because they raced them. They're gorgeous, gorgeous boats.
Jerome, before we let you go, how advanced is the Boat in a Box project? What's happening?
Well, we're still at it. Funding is always a single issue, but we're still at it. I tell you, I know your time is really, really tight, but I'd like to mention one thing that's very important to us. On August the 24th, we have an event here at Wooden Boat Museum. It's called Wooden Boats and Musical Notes. We have a partnership with Trinity Hall there, where they will have entertainment and stuff. But anyway, it's a big fundraiser for us. So we're actually celebrating a theme that we call Celebrating Baccalaureate Connection. We have a number of things, wine and cheese and the silent auction, but importantly, and if you give me a minute more of your time, we have tickets for sale on a trip across a one-way trip for 2 between Halifax and Vancouver on Via Rail, and we sell tickets here at the museum for that, and that's an important thing for us because we're hoping to raise a bit of money to help us keep open and to celebrate our heritage with boats. But anyway, we just got to call the museum for those tickets, and there's a number of our people who are with our organization, our board and friends at the museum are selling tickets. But the best way to get them is just to call down here, 709-583-2070. Ask for Betty or Glennis, and they'll put you straight on these tickets. They're very, very important. But this Baccalaureate Connection, Paddy, I'm sure that'll be something that later we could be talking about, but it's an incredible piece of history for the people of Winterton who fish literally from that on, climbed the ladder of a cliff and motorboat fishery, and we're going to celebrate that history here next year, please God, and that fundraiser is going to partly support the building of a motorboat from the 30s. So that's one of the big things. So on August 24th, people can look at their calendars. Wooden Boats and Musical Notes, celebrating the Baccalaureate Connection. It's wine and cheese, like I said, and the concert, and there's other details that as we get closer, and we really like people to consider it in their plans.
And hopefully they will, Jerome. It's nice to have you on the program. Say hello and best wishes to Jim for me.
Yes, we will. We're all sort of rooting for him as you are, Paddy. Thank you for that. I'm sure Jim thanks you.
Stay in touch, Jerome.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye now.
And Jerome Canning is a master boat builder with the Wooden Boat Museum. Let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back, Glenn Winslow's in the queue. He's running for the Inshore VP at the FFAW. Of course, we've had conversations with all of the three candidates running for the presidency, and now one with someone running for the VP spot. Let's take a break. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 4. Let's take more to Glenn Winslow, who's running for the Inshore VP at the FFAW. Glenn, you're on the air.
Hi, Paddy. Good morning. Nice to talk to you. I guess you can hear me good enough?
Not too bad. It's a little bit hollow. Do you have us on speaker by chance?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
If you can take that off, that'd be best.
Okay, is this sounding any better?
Much better, thank you.
Okay, Paddy, I'm Glenn Winslow. I've been around the FFAW for years, and people ask me how long you've been at it and when you started, and it's too long for me to be able to tell them, to be honest with you. I just wanted to... Most people know me right around Ireland, but I wanted to get the opportunity here this morning to introduce myself to some of the people that I've never had the opportunity to talk to.
So, Glenn, you say you've been around the FFAW in official capacity?
Yeah, I've been on the Inshore Council for, I guess, probably 15 years for sure, going back to, like the early 2000s for sure. I started out on committees and I guess people liked what they hear and moved me up to the Inshore Council, and that's where I'm to today, actually.
Okay. And so, we know the competition for 3 people vying for the presidency. How many people are looking at the VP Inshore?
I think it's 5, Paddy. We got 5 people vying for the vice presidency, which is historic, really. Like a lot of people have said over the years, is not a democratic organisation. People have been appointed, but I guess we're really proven here that it is a democratic process, and it seems like now people have a lot of interest in it, and that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing anyway.
Oh, absolutely. The competition is exactly what these positions require. So where do you start with number one concerns? Because we know there's some fracture in the ranks. We've been told by the union and the ASP things like the sharing formula for crab and for halibut and lobster has been achieved. But some of the harvesters on the ground, they are taking exception to that. So they think there's still some real fractures, not only between plant workers and the harvesters themselves, but inside the world of the fish harvesters, there's some dissent in the ranks. So where do you start to try to repair some of these fractures?
Well, Paddy, to be truthful with it, I think the biggest issue that we've had over the years with the FFAW is price negotiations. And I mean, we do have our issues with regards to jurisdictional issues and getting shares of quota, and fighting with the federal government for more for Newfoundlanders. We've got other provinces to come here to fish, and some of them got more like halibut than us to catch, and that's always been an issue, and there's no trouble to get a consensus on that. But the biggest consensus we've got, and the biggest issue we got with the FFAW really has been the lack of being able to get the best price out of the market. And, we took a big step forward this spring to try and fix that problem. Is it totally fixed yet? No, by no stretch of the imagination. It's not fixed yet. And we have a serious concern happening up for today, and that's basically what I wanted to call in about, is that we're getting ready to elect a new leadership. And that new leadership is going to try and bring the FFAW in a new direction. And I know that. I know that now from speaking to some of the people that are running, that we're going to go in the new leadership. Right now, we have a pivotal position up there. Our lead negotiator has left that job, and we have to fill that position. But I really believe, and my position on it is that when the new leadership is chosen, that we should have some input into that. So I think it should be put off right now, because the way we've hired for that position in the past is not working, Paddy. It's not working, and we have to change that. And personally, I think we have to go in the direction of putting together a committee, a hiring committee with some criteria for this person to do this job, and we have to go out and recruit someone for this job. It's not so simple as anymore getting on the FFAW website and hire and putting an advertisement out that we need someone for this position, this is the criteria we need. It's not working. So what we really need to do is put together a list of stuff that we need and get some kind of agency to go out and find someone to fill this position. Because right now in this world, you have to have someone that's able to go in and find out the information all over the world and come back to us and tell us what's going on in the world with market prices. That's the only way we can fix market prices. And another issue we have is that why is Newfoundland Seafoods, which is in the North Atlantic, the Northwest Atlantic, always differentiated as a seafood compared to Atlantic Canada? Like, we got Atlantic Canada 5 to 8 ounce crab, and we got Newfoundland crab, and we got Atlantic Canada lobsters, and we got Newfoundland lobsters. Like, there's something not right here with the way that's done, and it's starting to seem like it's a way for different people or different organizations or different buyers to get stuff cheaper in Newfoundland, and here we are in the North Atlantic, cold, pristine waters, and we should be getting more for our product, not less. So I think we have to change the way we get someone for that position. That's what I'm doing.
I'm still a little bit confused about the price for whatever species, because ultimately the harvesters can want what they want, the processors can want what they want, but the market will dictate exactly what's going to get paid. So unless it's just a carefully defined percentage for either side going into the season rather than the rackets be entertained, I mean, isn't that the only fundamental way to deal with the price? Because, I mean, the white tablecloth in New York City doesn't care what the FFAW wants, doesn't care what the ASP wants. They only care about how much they're willing to pay for whatever product, if we're talking snow crab or shrimp or cod or halibut. So isn't that the solution and the only solution, or am I missing something, which I very well could be?
Well, Paddy, like up until last year when we came into working towards having a formula, Newfoundland 5 to 8 ounce sections crab were within 10 to 15 cents of the Maritimes. And all of a sudden now we're within, like the gap has widened. Like right now I think we might be at 6.05 and the Maritimes are still up around 6.50. But why is that happening? Why is Newfoundland crab in the first place differentiated, period? Why? Like a 5 to 8 ounce crab is a 5 to 8 ounce crab. And if a 5 to 8 ounce crab in the Maritimes is X amount of dollars and valued at this X amount of dollars in the market, Newfoundland should be the same. I don't even understand why they're differentiating it anymore, to be honest with you. And I think that's what we got to get back to fixing. I'll tell you another problem we have in Newfoundland. We don't have, like, our products have been marketed in the past, like we've got the bulk barn here. It's been sold in bulk. Well, we don't have bulk no more. We might have it in crab, but you got to remember, that's not a year-long fishery. That's only a 10 to 12-week fishery a year. So we don't have the volume to be able to sell stuff in bulk like we did years ago and make it on volume, because that's not the case with none of our species no more. So we have to get the best price, and we've always been fighting about why are the Maritimes getting so much compared to Newfoundland. That's the big issue. If everyone was getting the same, we'd be all on the one page, we'd all be getting the same price, and you wouldn't have that argument in the future.
Glenn, I appreciate making time for the show this morning. Good luck out there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Yeah, the price, the argument has been made is that there's additional, and I'm not in the plant, so I don't know, but the argument is put forward like this, is that there is more processing work to be done here when you talk about the barnacles and stuff that we see on some of the crab. Now, of course, there was a big kerfuffle when one media outlet, I can't remember who it was, put up a picture of a really poor-looking crab, and of course that brought along the fury of folks on either side, because of course the product is top quality. There's simply no argument at all. And so some of the justification for the disparity in price, I don't know. Let's take a break. When we come back, Jerry Earle's on the queue. He's the president of NAPE. Talk about the fact that the most recent contract offered to the home care workers in the group of 22 has been rejected. We'll get a numbers breakdown from Jerry after this. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. It's called line number 5. Say good morning to Jerry Earle, who is, of course, the president at NAPE. Jerry, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you?
Not too bad, thanks. How about yourself?
Not doing too bad, actually.
So we had a home care worker kick off the show. Candace called this morning saying despite the fact that NAPE recommended that the contract get ratified, apparently it's been rejected. Can you help us break down the numbers?
Yeah, exactly. What happens, and I may have mentioned before, what happens here, the negotiating team made up of frontline workers had come to what they thought to be a decent collective agreement at the bargaining table with some 22 separate employers. That was recommended to the home care, and in a democratic process, home care workers across the entire province have done a vote now, a very comprehensive one that went on for, I think, 3.5 days. The biggest voter turnout we've had, I think, in home care for a very long time, and the contract actually has been rejected by, I think, Patty, no, quote me the exact numbers, about 54-55% rejection rate.
So, and this all despite the recommendation. One quick question before we get into next steps.
Yep.
Is there a reason why the government wasn't at the table here? Because ultimately they might be working for private agencies, but home care is a provincial responsibility and provincial monies. So is there a reason why the government wasn't involved?
That's $1 million question. We believe if, number one, if home care workers were direct government employees, we wouldn't be in 2024 trying to fight for such things as group insurance and pensions that these healthcare providers do not have. In many of these profit, because this is a profit-driven healthcare model, government remains hands-off. They provide, even though it's funding of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians that pay for these services. Nobody from government, Treasury Board sits at the bargaining table. And I think I mentioned before, I have never seen a bargaining process like this where these private operators don't trust themselves enough to put a negotiating team representative in the bargaining table. The bargaining table, you can imagine this now, is 22 employers sitting in the room, 22 home care workers sitting in the room along with 2 staff negotiators. So that makes it complex enough. So you got competitors at a bargaining table trying to reach negotiating, and that wouldn't be happen anywhere in the public sector. Like we bargain large public sector contracts where the biggest team you would have on each side of the table would be 7 people. So that's a big piece. Without the true funder at the bargaining table, it's a middle person type process. We don't know the conversations that take in place between the operators and government. Some 22, and then there's a couple that's not even at this bargaining table that's negotiating separate. And then when you go over to the government side, well, the funding comes from Health and Community Services. As you know, any funding then got to be approved by Treasury Board. So extremely complex bargaining. And I know someone simple said, well, I'm assuming to be back to well, the process is now, most people don't realize we were in conciliation. We had walked away from the bargaining table because the initial proposals were not satisfactory. Some things came back, and I think we were 4 hours away from 4 days, from initiating a strike vote that led to this. So we have now reached out to conciliation officer to see, and I certainly hope there will be a interest for the agency to come back to the bargaining table. I'd certainly like to see somebody from Government Treasury Board take an interest in sitting at the bargaining. I know that won't happen, but I'd like to see that. I wish these workers were public sector employees. They deserve to be. They are healthcare providers. And I think one big thing we're hearing from this group is they really feel left out. They really feel offended for what they contribute to the healthcare system. And in this profit-driven model, like I'll tell you, none of these operators are earning. The frontline members are.
Fair enough. Though there was an assertion by Candice as well this morning that she said something along these lines. There's a thought out there that even though the contract was rejected, some of these agencies may indeed adopt the terms of the contract and just move on. So is that something that we have any control over, or is it every agency for themselves?
No, our position here is they came to a bargaining table as a joint group. Whether they take a different view, this is a joint collective agreement. They are signatures to it. I know there was a couple that joined late in the bargaining process, but these operators are signatures to a collective agreement. Our position is that we will head back to the bargaining table and hopefully be able to come up with something different to present. But again, the conciliation officer now, as the coordinator, like I said, we are in conciliation. We'd actually broken off talks. So we've reached out, and actually 2 of our staff will meet with the conciliation officer hopefully today to see what she can do now to get the parties back together at the bargaining table. And I certainly hope one of the employers or all of the employers will talk to government and make them aware, because obviously they'll hear here now today that there's certainly been a rejection of the Home Care Collective Agreement in Newfoundland and Labrador.
There was also thoughts about just how the meetings were conducted. Now, there's always a bunch of sides to every story.
Yes.
Some of it was about, the floor was stirring the pot, or versus the NAPE representative and some of the comments he maybe did or possibly made. But some of the issues here, do you know for a fact that if any of the NAPE representatives said things along these lines, if you vote against this, you might lose your job, those types of things, because that's not really part of a collective bargaining period. If they're hired by a private agency, NAPE really has no say in whether or not anyone loses their job. So can you give us some of your reaction to the tone, the tenor of those meetings? Because I've heard from some that there was problems with the presenters, and others have told me, well, the floor just put these meetings out of control before they were able to begin. So what are your thoughts on how the meetings unfolded?
Give you a couple of things. If anything was brought to us, I know one individual that do these collective bargaining. He has done more for home care sector in the entire province. He's been there from the day they started organizing. He is extremely respected, and he's a staff person. Having said that, if anything came to my attention as president of NAPE officially, that would be looked into. As I speak to you here today, there has been not a single thing officially brought to me other than some people posting things on Facebook pages. Not a thing has come into me saying that anyone made any inappropriate comment. What has come to me, for example, a meeting here in St. John's where some frontline home care workers, members of the negotiating team, and a staff negotiator had to leave a meeting where a group come into that meeting. As soon as the negotiators stopped and introduced themselves, the tone and the comments made, and for the safety of people in that room and other home care workers, a decision was made, and actually a phone call was made to me, and I said, no, stop the meeting. We are not having anybody put it on. That was one exception in meetings. Meetings are difficult. I'm sure you've attended some meetings where there's difficult things, questions asked, and that's the point. Give information. Listen to posed questions and share information. That's what these meetings do. And this is probably also what was done, Patty. Everything was put on a web page where people could go and read. They had 3.5 days to vote. So, yeah, it was a pretty extensive process that was opened up.
Last one before I let you go, and this is a question from a listener, and it's about the ILA home care workers, so the independent living arrangements, and they don't have any unionised representation. Is there anything to move afoot there?
There has been efforts, and the real difficulty there is because these individuals have private contracts with the client. So it's Jerry Earl looking after a client, Patty Daly looking after a client. They would have to be organized individually. So there has been reach out from some at some points, but usually then when they realize a lot of this is actually family members, relatives of clients. So there's been very little interest from the individual. Some have reached out, but then when you do follow up and they understand that they're really not going to be part of a larger group, they'd be a contract of one or a contract of two, then they have second thoughts on that.
Fair enough. I appreciate the time this morning, Jerry. Anything else before we say goodbye?
No, that's everything, and thank you for the opportunity to have a chat.
Appreciate the time. Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you, Patty.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Jerry Earl, the president at NAPE. Let's keep rolling here. Let's go to line number 6. Good morning, Charlene. You're on the air.
Hello, Patty. Good morning.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So I've talked about the Sash Bear Foundation and the Sash Bear Walk for Mental Health in the past. Was it with you?
No, you spoke before with our founder, Lynn Curry.
Oh, okay. Very well.
And she's not able to make it this year because she's in France giving a talk.
Okay. So people are familiar with a variety of mental health advocacy organizations, but I don't hear Sash Bear mentioned very much. But in fact, it's one of the leading voices for Canadian families. So tell us about the foundation before we get into the walk.
Yes, the foundation was set up about 13 years ago by Lynn and her husband Mike after their daughter died by suicide. And at that time, they were traveling to the U.S. to get support as a family to see what could they do to help their daughter, who was struggling with borderline personality disorder and a gamut of other mental health. And then after she died, they said, we got to do more. And the skills we learned, we really believe, had she lived, it really would have helped. And I'm a testament to how much it did help, because I truly believe it saved my daughter's life and our family.
Can you give us a sneak peek at what some of those tips would be for families?
Absolutely. The biggest tip would be validating your loved one's feelings. Like, we often don't understand what they're going through and how they live in like an emotional raw skin, and everything is really felt differently to them. And it's hard for families to understand the differences when someone's struggling with their mental health and emotional dysregulation, and how difficulty it can be to regulate yourself. So we learned a superpower on how we can validate and just understand what they must be feeling, what it must be like to just be there and have, if you could imagine, one layer of emotional skin where everything is highly sensitive, and it's so painful for them. And when we can understand that and recognize how hard it is, we now can connect on another level. And it's not about what's being said or the actions that are being done. It's about what they're feeling and how we can empathize.
How do we get there? Because that sounds a little bit easier said than done. So walk us through your particular process, because to walk a mile in someone else's shoes is difficult enough, but when we talk about the complexities of mental illness, it becomes even more difficult.
It is so hard. It is learning a whole new language. On one level, it's easy to say, but we take our participants through a 12-week program to learn all sorts of dialectical behavior therapy-based skills that includes accepting things for the benign interpretation that they are, understanding that there is more than one truth. We can all experience the same sequence of events, and we'll all walk away telling a different story and feeling differently. And so just digging into that and then accepting the things that we cannot change so that we can move forward together with the things that things that are really worth changing, and remembering that the relationship is most important. It's not about being right. It's about being effective.
100%. And so are there some key pillars inside, whether it be the mandate or the mission or what have you of SASHBEAR, that might set you apart from other organizations?
I think one of the biggest things that I found when I found SASHBEAR in 2019 was that they offer everything for free. And that's part of why we do this walk that we'll get into. But they just really want to help families. And when I was struggling with my daughter and her father's mental health, it was all about trying to get help for them, which is very important, and I don't want to take away from that. And our healthcare system set up today. But nobody was focusing on the families and what can the families do beyond having support groups. But give us skills, give us knowledge, give us language, give us ways to connect with. And that's what SASHBEAR did that I did not find in any other thing. And I was in Alberta at the time, and even after moving to Newfoundland, I haven't found anything that compares to it.
Well, I mean, for whether we're talking about someone's physical health and or mental well-being, the family compassion, the family care, the family being in the loop and with a better understanding of who they are, where they're coming from, and walking in their shoes, so to speak. So it just makes all the sense in the world. I mean, we talk about family supports when we talk about, say, for instance, loved ones with dementia. But in mental health, we really do focus on the person needing the help. But of course, the family will be part of the healing process.
Absolutely. Mental health is a family problem. It's not an individual problem. Individuals cannot get better without a support network around them. And and it's proven that when families get more skillful, the people struggling with mental health also get better. There's improvements.
It's terrific, and we'd like to keep the conversation regarding mental health right on the front burner here in an effort to, I think the proper word for me to use is to normalize it, as opposed to the conversations that have happened in the shadows, which has been really counterproductive, to say the very least.
Absolutely, and that's part of why the walk is such an amazing thing. We get out and we wear our orange shirts and we walk and we talk and we share moments. We're not afraid of mental health. We're not afraid to talk about it. We all struggle at some points in our lives, and we all know someone who's struggling even more, perhaps. So we have to break that stigma by being willing to talk like this, which I love that you're open to this, and however we can, whoever we can. It's just like physical health. It's just like having cancer, or and it kills people, and there's ways to save people's lives by connecting.
Absolutely. Charlene, give us the details, the where, the whens for the upcoming walk.
Yep, so the walk itself is going to be happening at Kitty Vitty tomorrow. We're going to have a little tailgate party down by the boathouse, and we'll have a mindful paced walk. It's not a race or anything like that around the lake, and we'll be starting our walk at 11:30 with opening ceremonies at 11 and pre-registration at 10:30. We're also down at the Elks Club this evening for a registration and information night where some of our facilitators will be here to share more information if you're interested in learning about SASHBEAR or family connections. And and all the free services that we provide. And then also the Confederation building lights are going to be lit up in orange tonight to commemorate mental health, Stash Bear, and our 3rd annual Walk on the Rock.
Terrific. Thanks for making time for the show. Good luck with the event and in the future. Stay in touch, Charlene.
Thank you very much, Patty. You have a wonderful day.
The same to you. Thank you.
Bye.
There you go. That might be something you're interested in. Tomorrow, let's take a break. When we come back, Tom wants to talk about housing needs. Susan wants to talk about the Grace Hospital site and maybe a preview of some upcoming wrestling shows. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 3. Susan, you're on the air. Hi, Susan.
Hi there. Good morning, Patty.
Good morning to you.
Calling in this morning on the occasion of the announcement that's coming up shortly on the Grace Hospital property.
Yep.
Just want to remind people that the residents of Bradbury Place, Pleasant Street, and the surrounding area are to reply to us concerning the debris containing asbestos, which was over the acceptable limit, 5% over the acceptable limit of asbestos, that covered our properties on the morning of March 3rd, the morning that the demolition began. And we just want to keep that out there, that we have not yet heard back from government on our inquiry about the debris that covered our properties that morning.
And fair enough, we had a gentleman call, I believe he was from Bradbury Place, and he was talking about it being on his vehicle and on his property and on his house and on his shed, and absolutely not acceptable. I mean, if it was dangerous enough to try to put up a protective fence and offer protective equipment to the employees on site, then obviously the residents of the surrounding area and neighborhoods have to be considered.
Yeah, and honestly, this has, I just thought I would call in this morning because an announcement is being made, and that's really exciting, and I'm sure that will be a great announcement this morning. But yeah, we're still waiting. So thought I'd put that out there and see if anybody reacts to that over the next little while.
And so, what exactly are you asking for now that it's already happened?
Now that it's already happened, I guess we would simply like government to acknowledge the information that we sent to them, to perhaps explain why that might have happened. I guess I think possibly they're thinking that we're saying, well, it came from the Grace Hospital property. Well, I guess it did. But essentially, we sent government information, test results, explaining that the debris on our properties, Bradbury Place, Pleasant Street, down as far as Hamilton Avenue, over on Bennett Avenue, everywhere in the area that morning, were covered with debris that contained large amounts of asbestos, and wherever it came from, let's say. But government never did get back to us to say, listen, we're going to take your tests, we're going to look into it, we have our tests, we will look into yours, and we will get back to you. Clean up your property, reassure you that the amounts won't have long-term effects on anyone's health, test the soil in the area. So might be some of the things we might expect.
Are you looking for any financial compensation?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not. Simply that they acknowledge that this did happen, and, that maybe when a neighborhood says, hey, we had asbestos all over our properties, that they should acknowledge it and look into it.
Fair enough. And that's not asking a lot.
No.
I suppose the hesitancy to acknowledge is, I guess they think that might open them up to some liability. I'm guessing now that that's where it is, but that's quite likely part of the calculation they're making.
Yeah, possibly. However, that certainly would not have been the reason for our inquiry. We simply were hoping that they would talk to us about it, acknowledge it, determine where it came from, maybe do some further testing to reassure us that the soil now in those neighborhoods is fine or not fine, things like that.
Susan, I'm glad you put it back out there.
All right, then. Well, thanks a lot for taking my call.
It's my pleasure. Have a nice weekend.
You too.
Thank
See
you.
Patty.
Bye-bye. Yeah, I suppose that we can put that to a variety of ministers who might have some responsibility on that file. Let's go to line number 1. Tom, you're on the air.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Excellent. How about you?
Not too bad. Patty, we've spoken many times in the past about the project we have at the Hub, trying to get some housing units there. And I just want to call this morning and say, that's it. I'm done. I can't deal with this anymore. We've done everything possible that's been asked of us to get this project off the ground, and nothing's happening. Clearly, persons with disabilities needing housing is of absolutely no interest to this government, and so I just can't do it anymore. I'm just, as you know, when we came up with this project, we went to government. They loved the idea. They all came to visit and did their things, and we at our own expense, we came up with a plan, a layout, and then when they saw it, they loved it. Then they approved the funding for us to go to get the architectural drawings, which we did. Then we went to the contractor, and we got a price, and 6 units, $410,000, which is about $65,000 a unit, compared to the Comfort Inn out there, which when we look at the lease prices and the fact they have social workers and feeding them and maintenance and all the things, is about $500,000 per unit for 3 years. And the last word I've had from government was probably 2 months ago, when I spoke to our MHA, said that they were going to put me in contact with a consultant to help us. The consultant happened to be Hope Jameson, a former counselor, and I haven't heard a word since. My texts, my emails, my letters go unanswered, so I don't know what else to do. All I know is that I can't do this anymore. We're just going to have to drop the whole thing, rent it as office space, and just, it's unfortunate, but, they won't even respond to me anymore. I don't know what I've done. But it's absolutely crazy. It's ridiculous.
So is it just the silence that has got you this frustrated, or is there a specific roadblock that you were unable to clear, or is it just they won't get back to you?
They just won't respond to me. When I speak to our MHA, Mr. Abbott, and I say to him, look, we've done everything you've asked us for. We've got the contractor price. We're working with the city who are on board for all of this. All I need is the funding. Can I have the funding, please, to get this thing off the road? Well, we'll get you a consultant to locate funding. What do I need a consultant for to get me funding? Give me the funding. Give me the money. Every day you hear announcement after announcement after announcement from government for people who are abuse victims, for troubled youth, for mental health issues, for everything in the world. You're getting funding announcements. I even went so far as to say, give me a no interest loan, or give me something. But for the last 2 months, not a word. So the contractor we had lined up, I won't get him now because he's busy with other projects. So it's dead in the water, and I can't, I can't. Is there something I'm missing? I keep saying, is there something else you want me to do? The cost is just $60,000 per unit, and then no costs after that. And besides that, you're then going to free up 6 units that people are in, 6 units for many of them that are much larger than what they need, and nothing. If somebody would just say, Tom, come over and talk to me, and I'll tell you, your plan is a full pile of nonsense. No, we're not going to go ahead with it. Go away. Do something. But the fact that nobody will even talk is just, we had an issue You had somebody on your program there a few weeks ago from the Gambia area, I thought, that had bought a church and was experiencing the same type of frustration. So, I just have my wits end. We can't do it anymore. We're losing. We're a charity, so we depended on the rental income from the place. I can't do it. It's been vacant for a year now, and we're struggling, and I need the rental income to make ends meet. And so, that's. I know I'm frustrating. I sound frustrated, and I'm always calling you with being negative, but I'd like to announce today that, we got the funding. We're going to go ahead, but I can't get an answer from government at all.
Which is all so strange. I mean, if we are on one side of our mouths talking about the need for housing, especially for people who are the most vulnerable, but on the other side of our mouth silent, it just doesn't jibe. Like, I don't know how anyone can offer a rationale on that front. Tom, can you, pardon me, do you have anything else before I get to the news?
No, and you're absolutely right, because while I was on hold waiting to talk to you, a lady called me. Her son is getting out the Waterford today, and she's looking for housing.
Yeah.
It's desperate out there, and I said, I'm sorry, I don't have any. And similarly, I bet you I get 2 or 3 calls a day, the same thing. And here we have a project for 6 units, and it's unfortunate that we got to get on your program to try and embarrass people from government to give me a call. But that's the situation we're in. Thanks for listening, and Dan, have a great day.
You too, Tom. Thanks for this.
Okay. Yeah, bye-bye. All
right, bye-bye. So let's see here. I just got to bang that off. Let's take a break for the news. When we come back, tons of time left to speak with you on this commemorative edition of the program. Don't go away.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
And welcome back to the show. Let's go. Line number 5. Caller, you're on the air.
Yes, why? How are you today?
Not bad. How about you?
I don't know.
What's going on?
No, I had a big problem with cataracts way back. It was more than a year ago now. And anyway, I end up everything be moving around. So they told me it was dementia. So I said, so I went and had a CAT scan done. Everything turned out good. And they took me in and threw me up on the 4th floor. I was there for 7 or 8 months. And I'm still in.
You were in hospital for 7 or 8 months with a cataract?
Exactly. And this is the problem. And anyway, what the doctor did, he come in one day and he said to me, I'm going to give your bank card to your son. I said, what? He said, yeah. He said, I'm going to give him your card. He said, you're not, well, I never had the capability to do what he wanted me to do, I guess. And now after that, I went through I don't know, I'm kind of nervous here now.
Take your time.
But anyway, I spent 7 or 8 months there, and I had the cataracts removed. I had 3 cataracts. I had 3 of them removed, and went back and see the doctor after 8 weeks, and he checked my eyes and everything, and he says, see you in 2 years. I put to myself, perfect, that's good. So anyway, I got a 20/20 vision. So anyway, I complained that much about down on the 4th floor. That I'm the only feller down there that could walk. Everybody is in the room that I got now. They're all in wheelchairs, and they're sick people. But I got no sickness in my body whatsoever. And now they're going to do an assessment on me and said the check it. There's something else on the brain too now. So as a farce, I've been trying to get I got that on my own money, and I don't need my son to help me do that. I can do that myself, right? And he comes up with like on yesterday. This is what set me off is the way they're treating me, and they threw me in there in the long term. That's where I'm at now. I've been there for 6 months. And the only thing that I had wrong, what got me in there, was the cataracts. So they're gone, and I can't be gone. I don't know why. But anyway, that's my story, buddy. I'm sticking to it.
I mean, is it commonplace for people to be hospitalized for months on end with cataracts? Like, I don't even follow that part of the story.
I don't either. It's crazy. And they come. I'm not allowed to go off the premises. Yesterday, one of the nurses, we went for a walk, and we walked down and looked down over, Corner Brook, and you see the mill. I was pointing it out to her. She's not from here. She's from away, whatever. And I was telling her, there's smoke is coming out of the mill. This is how most of the people around here make a living, make a good living. And all of a sudden, 2 cop cars showed up, and but anyway, we walked home. They wanted to take me, put me in the cop car, but I said no. This 3 times now that I can't move. Wherever I go, the cop cars ahead of me or behind me. And I'm just so sick of this. It's unreal. So what can I do? I've tried everything that I could try.
Such as?
And like, I don't know. I cut my arm just barely enough for the blood. There was no blood there at all. You wouldn't see it on a Band-Aid. I even throw out if I see ketchup on the floor. That's how much I like blood. But anyway, that's this is how I'm getting treated. Because of that walk yesterday, I'm not allowed to go outdoors. I smoke, but I'm not going to. You're not allowed to have smoke, not before Monday. This is only Friday yet, and I got to wait another Monday to get to have a smoke. I'm a heavy smoker and I love it, but that's beside the point. Yeah. And I like to have a scattered beer, especially on a Friday night, listen to the radio and whatever. But I don't know. I'm fed up. Put it that way.
Fair enough. And I wouldn't even know where to direct you because the story's all a little bit confusing, to be honest.
Yeah. But they're going to get a new face just to make sure they're... But it's like I said, it's coming from the doctor's office, and he's only just going to scratch it down under what he put in the computer.
Okay.
I don't know anything about computers, but I'm not a dummy either, right?
No, you don't sound like it. Anything else you'd like to offer this morning before I sneak on one more call?
No, I just want people know this thing that's going on, and like the people down there, down front. I go down there, and if anybody new, they say, talk to them, and they say, you got family in there, have you? No. You're staying in here, yeah. And one guy one time from Stephenville, he glasses off and he looked at me like a dummy. What, you're in here? I mean, I'm as hardy as a brick, and I want to get out of here and start off with. I want to get out of here and want lots of work around. I like to get a job. And I don't think it'd be much trouble. I spent 43 in plastering and painting, and pretty good at it. I got to say that.
Well, there's lots of work out there. I have to get off to another call, but I wish you well. Good luck.
Yeah, okay, buddy.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.
Man, what's going on here? Let's see. Before we get to the break, line 2. Gabriel, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you?
Not bad, I suppose. You?
Oh, I'm all right. I'd like to take the opportunity to promote a couple of Newfoundland wrestling shows.
Let's go.
All right. So, first one I'm going to talk about is Inner City Wrestling. It's a promotion based out of Bonavista. And on June 22nd, they are going to be having their one-year anniversary show called Emergence 2. What makes this interesting is it's going to be taking place at the Discovery Collegiate High School in Bonavista. It's the first time in like 20 years or something that Newfoundland wrestling has ever been in a high school. For tickets for this, you can get the tickets at Western Petroleum in Catalina, Audrey's Grocery in Bonavista, or you can get them online at ticketscene.ca. Some of the names that's going to be participating in that show are a couple of hometown wrestlers, those being Fearless Brady Felix, Deviant Drifter Axel Mason, and Jeremiah Javen. The three of them have matches for the show. The three of them's got matches for the show. Brady Felix has his hands full as he goes head-to-head with Heavenly Body Dick Daniels. And Jeremiah Javen and Axel Mason are going to be participating in a triple threat encounter with Madman Tara Aziz. And a couple of other names we have on the card for that particular show is the ICW Heavyweight Champion, Violent Vindication, Cameron Stevens, Bulldog Brandon Hines, and a couple of Maritime performers from down in Nova Scotia, those being Cannonball Justine Ward, Ryan Cleary, and the crybaby Covey Christ.
I love the names, personally.
Probably one of my favorite names is Crybaby Covey Christ.
I like Violent Vindication. I think that's one of the ones that also threw out there.
Yeah.
Anyway, very quickly, Gabriel, we have to wrap it up before I have to go to the break.
Okay. I will make the second show a bit quick, though, since you do have to go on break.
We do, yeah.
The second one is July 13th at CLB Armory, New Evolution Wrestling. That one's interesting because we have new owners for that one. And for tickets for that one, you can get it at Heroes and Hobbies in St. John's or at ticketscene.ca. There's a match announced for that. Jeremiah Javen, who I mentioned previously, he's the heavyweight champion for New Evolution Wrestling, and he's going to be defending his title against Maverick Matt Wheeler.
All great. Anything else this morning, Gabriel, before we have to take the break?
Just wanted to put over the ticket spots. It's very important. Once again, ICW is Western Petroleum in Catalina, Audrey's Grocery in Bonavista, or Ticket Scene if you want to do them online. And NEW is Heroes and Hobbies in St. John's or Ticket Scene.
Good to have you on. Enjoy the show. When we talk about these types of performances, I generally say break a leg, but I'll hesitate to do that with the wrestling. Good luck.
All right. Thank you, Patty.
Thanks, buddy. All the best. All right. Let's take that break. When we come back, we're going to talk about P3s. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Let's go to line number 4. Good morning, Greg Malone. You're on the air.
Hello, Patty.
Hello there.
How are you?
Excellent.
This is, good. I called in because you were talking about P3s there this morning. And, I've had experience with P3s in the past. Public-private partnerships where the public pays for private profit, basically. And, of course, their history has been a disaster. But what I called you about was I recently discovered where P3s came from and people who formulated the whole process of P3s. And do you know where it started? It started in Italy, and it was invented by Benito Mussolini as a way of getting public money into the hands of his cronies and, of course, himself. He would hand over a bunch of money to his cronies to build something, and they would take a large sum of money to do that and build it as cheaply as possible and pocket all the rest. That's how P3s work, and that's how they still work. And Hitler liked it a lot. He used it too. So it's a fascist technique for looting the public treasury and giving the money to your cronies with the pretext that they're going to build stuff for the public. So it's not a great history.
No, it's certainly not a great jumping-off point for P3s. And I mean, even if we talk modern day, there have been some pretty clear examples in different parts of the world, including in this country, where things have gone sideways. Some of the problems with it is, there's a upfront savings for government, but it's long-term when you incorporate profit, eventually, inevitably, or no question, down the line, some of the monies that might have been saved through traditional procurement have gone out the window. So it's the 30-year roadmap. And it's difficult, if not impossible, to envisage all the moving parts over the time frame of, say, 30 years, which is the go-to number for most of the P3s in this province. I mean, look at what happened with, I think it was Route 703 or whatever in Ontario. They privatized it. They lost out on billions of dollars. So there are huge questions to be asked. And the government, curiously, when talking about the P3 approach, well, it's kind of a P3, to the expansion of the divided highway, they say, well, look at the successes of the P3s at the Cornerbrook Hospital. What? How have we deemed anything a success? It only opened its doors last week.
I know. I mean, everyone can see these things. They can see the leaking, medical clinics and the moldy schools and the bad roads from these P3s. And the history of the P3s, like you say, is one of complete failure, whether it's in the States or Britain or Canada or wherever you look. It's a tale of governments having to spend twice as much to get the job done, cost overruns, and sometimes having to do the whole job again. And we've even seen that here. You see, like these private companies putting in sidewalks. They're in there one season, the next season they're reduced to crumbs. And then they have to come back and do the sidewalk again. How many times do we see around in this province the same job being done 2 and 3 times over a few years until they finally get it right? But the stuff that's gone up here with P3s, whether it's clinics or hospitals or theaters, my God, are terrible facilities, basically. Cheap, terrible facilities don't work right and have constant problems for the people working in them. So, we can see it. Everyone can see it. The history is there. It's been written. Many people have written it. And yet governments keep trying to do it, to get away with doing it. Why? It's a good question. Why? Is it just to give money to their cronies? They owe them that many favors. They have to do it this way, or what's going on here? Why? People are losing faith in governments all over the place, and yet they keep saying, well, the government should know this. Why isn't the government doing that? Well, the truth is really we don't have a government. People don't have governments anymore. It's the financial elite and the corporations who have a government. It's their interests who are being served because they donate generously to the political campaigns or hugely costly political campaigns. They need to get millions and billions for that, and these corporations are willing to cough it up. So their interests are being served, and that's why we can't get any action on anything, whether it's our food prices or our internet prices and cable prices and, our cell phone prices. And there's several things. Everyone in Canada hates, HST and Rogers. We can't get any movement on that. Can't get any movement on all these. And 70 or 80% of Canadians want the same thing. They want, more reasonable sell rates. They want more reasonable food. They want more competition. But why can't we get more competition? Because the government is being paid to do otherwise and to look the other way. And so while we all see it, we can, trying to, shout and send signals to the government. Don't you see this? What's happening, Your Majesty? Your soldiers are looting our fields and taking our last loaf of bread. They see us.
Well, some of those are complicated issues.
It's not happening.
When we talk about areas that are federally regulated, at some point with the horses already out of the barn, let's just say telecom for starters. The big players have such a stranglehold. Even the Competition Bureau has talked about this, with groceries, telecom, banking, all the rest of it. But with the already in place stranglehold, they have a unique position that they can price out the startups. So that's the problem we have. Same thing in the airline industry. We've got rules about the amount of money that has to be controlled by domestic money for ownership in these airlines. And of course, when anything comes on stream, even WestJet is willing to do it to themselves. They'll price out Flair. They'll suck them in and then they'll price them out. So competition is lacking on a variety of fronts. And, the P3 concept, Now, not every P3 is created equally, and it's not just one political ideology or another that has latched onto them, because the Conservatives have been at it, the Liberals have been at it, NDP governments in Alberta gave it a shot too, so it just becomes look, here's what I've done for you, and I didn't raise your taxes, and here's what I've done for you, and it's going to save us money. But we don't have the calculation of 30 years down the road. So inevitably, it's been more complicated. They're very inflexible. It's incongruent to pretend we know what the world is going to look like in 30 years, period. So I think there's big questions to be asked. I'm told all the time by government that I'm overreacting, but the history's pretty clear. They have by and large been problematic.
The history is totally clear. It's a waste of public money, but no one's doing future planning, and government regulation has failed on every front. We don't have the kind of government regulation to ensure competition or to ensure even safety in the food chain. I mean, the other thing I really want to talk about was that skyrocketing rate of colorectal cancer in Newfoundland. Like that is a rare, non-infectious disease. So the reason for our digestive system being trashed to that extent has to come from the environment, has to come from where our digestive systems are trashed because our food chain is poisoned and has been poisoned since World War II, and it's the most toxic now, I think, that it has ever been in those 70 years, because they have no regulation to ensure the safety of the food that we are eating and what is in it, and we are all being poisoned from the glyphosate. That's the big one these days. Everything's got glyphosate in it, and all the processed food is not washed properly. So when you're eating processed food, you're getting a dose of glyphosate, along with the rest of the harm that kind of food is doing for you. So, like, we have been sold a bill of goods, and all of North America is suffering from it, but we are suffering really acutely here. We went back and ate the food our great-grandparents or grandparents ate. We'd be a lot better off. But you don't need to be that radical. You just have to have your food that you're eating to be clean and free of chemical and pesticide contaminants, and it's not. It's loaded with them. Everything in the supermarket. So, like, that's why we have all these digestive disorders, Crohn's, colitis, colorectal cancer now. It's ramping up. It used to be Crohn's was an epidemic here, and colitis. Now we're up to colorectal cancer. It's getting worse. And unless people are going to stop treating the symptoms and look for the causes of this, which is crying out, we are never going to fix it. We will never be able to build enough hospitals. We won't have enough medication. We'll never have enough nurses. We'll never have enough anything to deal with this, because it shouldn't be happening. We're in the middle of a war here, acting like this is the way things are now. Yes, it is the way things are now, but it doesn't have to be that way if we have proper regulation of the food chain.
Yeah, sometimes people call for more regulation. The other side of the coin might be calling for less, as if it saves us some money, makes things easier. And well, of course, some of those conversations are a bit too ridiculous to entertain. Greg, I appreciate you making time for the show. I'll see you around.
Good enough, Paddy.
Take care.
Talking to you.
You too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, let's take a break for the news. When we come back, asbestos. Don't go away.
The Tim Power Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
Welcome back to the show. Let's go. Line number 3. John, you're on the air.
Hi, Patty. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you. How about you?
Oh, great, sir. Thank you very much. First-time caller. I really enjoy your show, I must say.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Just wanted to comment quickly, Patty, about Susan's call earlier about the asbestos issue.
Yep.
I've been in construction now well over 30 years, and I mean, we deal with asbestos quite frequently on a lot of our projects, especially older buildings, renovating them and stuff. And before we're even allowed to go in there to start our work, I mean, if there's any asbestos involved whatsoever, there's a full abatement crew that's supposed to come in, and there's a certain protocol to be met there, full suits, respirators. When they test the quality or the levels of the asbestos and it's above the acceptable limit, then there's full abatement procedures that need to be followed, right? And I mean, anti-room is set up. Everything is double bagged and removed from the site, disposed in sealed containers. There's no, we don't take any chances with that stuff, right? So it seems like really someone must have really dropped the ball on this one, because, I mean, how did they must have did some, or maybe they didn't, any air quality test or anything like that?
I don't know how the process unfolded, but it sounds to me like where they were doing the initial abatement workers when the first escape got out over the fence.
Oh, okay. So they obviously, like, when we set up our antechamber, let's call them, it separates the work area from anywhere else on that job site. You understand? So, and you have to maintain a certain negative air measures before it's even passed, before you're even allowed to initiate any work on site, right? So it really seems like the proper protocols weren't followed on this one. That's for sure.
Well, not if it landed on the surrounding neighbourhood. Absolutely not.
No,
it'd be interesting to understand exactly when the problem started and how and why it happened. So I guess that's Transportation Infrastructure Minister John Abbott's file. So we're due to have him back on the show soon enough anyway.
Perfect. That's all I had to say. I just wanted to comment quickly. And like I said, I really enjoy your show, and you have a great weekend.
I appreciate the call. Thanks for tuning in. Stay in touch.
Okay, take care.
Thanks, John. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know exactly how that happened. And, whether or not the government's going to acknowledge it and what they're going to do about it remains to be seen. Apparently, it's been silence so far. Let's go to line number 1. Say good morning to the Mayor of New West Valley. That's Mike Tiller. Mayor Tiller, you're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy. It's a beautiful day.
'Tis.
Just want to make comment to Amy Cody Davis's article she had on your website yesterday concerning municipalities and what they're saying in regards to harassment and bullying of councillors.
Sure.
I think it's staggering that when you see the president of MNL who's going to another province and she's listening to 3,200 communities that are represented, and they're all telling similar stories that,
I'm sorry? Mayor Tiller? I don't know what happened there. Okay, now we have you. So we missed you there for a second. So you say it's amazing that you went to the conference and?
Speaking with 3,200 municipalities across the country, they were all basically speaking from the same hymn book, that it was harassment, it was bullying, and members of municipal councils are faced with things that have never been heard of in the last 10 or 15 years. It's something that's crept up maybe in the last 5 years, and with social media and the ability to hide behind a keyboard or to express yourself behind a keyboard, it's getting worse.
Sure, and it's all about how you say it. I mean, it's one thing to chastise, to question, to criticize elected officials, but we hear some stories that are well beyond that, like threats of physical violence, going to burn your house down with you in it. I mean, that's a long way from saying, I think you made a bad decision on this one, here's why. And ask questions, chastise, criticize, whatever people want to do. But it gets quite vicious sometimes.
Yeah, and thank God we haven't got to that point here in New West Valley. But and Patty, we are not always going to make the right decisions. You make the decisions based on the information that you're given, and based on what you think is best for the most population in your region.
Yeah, and look, being an elected official comes with some of these, I'll call them risks. People will be heated. People will be argumentative. But there's a long way between the aforementioned ways to approach it. So the message needn't be hyperbolic and savage, and or whatever the right word is. I get taken tests when I use that word. But anyway, it's just getting worse. I mean, the advent of social media has certainly amplified some of the more negative voices. And you're right, it's easy enough to be anonymous and to freak out at your keyboard. But anyway, and I'm on the receiving end of a lot of it too, and so be it, because I know that's part of what comes with this gig.
Yeah, and I think what people fail to realize is that you get the comments and they're broad, like, well, council made a stupid decision. Well, there's no doubt sometimes we may make stupid decisions, but what they got to realize is we're not council. We are the same members, the same people that you see in your grocery stores. We're the people who were the paramedics and who worked at the hospital, who worked at the fish are the same as you. We're just citizens in this town who are elected officials to do the best that they can with the knowledge and with the fundings that they have. And that's all we are. I mean, we are not this be-all, end-all body of know-it-alls. I mean, if you think we did something wrong, by all means, come up, talk to me. And at the end of the day, we may never agree, but if we agree to disagree and we leave with a handshake or a cordial goodbye, that's all necessary. I know that there's decisions that was made that have been unpopular, and again, with any projects and any decisions you make, it may take 10, 15 years to say, well, gee, that was a stupid decision that was made 10 or 15 years ago. But, you know, we found decisions that were made 10 or 15 years ago to this day, and we say, well, why did they make that decision? But unless you were the councillor in the seat at that time with all the information, you don't know why those decisions were made. So you just got to hope that they're doing the same thing as you did and making the best decision for the day with the information that you're given.
It's kind of how it works. I appreciate the time. Anything else, Mayor Tiller, before I take my final break of the week?
No, sir. You give yourself a good weekend. You do an excellent job, Paddy, and I hope that more municipal leaders speak out just to say what I said, that we're just normal people trying to do the best that we can.
Appreciate the time. Have a nice weekend.
You too, sir.
Okay, all the best. Bye-bye. That's Mike Tiller. He's the mayor of New West Valley. Final break of the morning. When we come back, Edgar's next to talk about the work that's coming up on expanding the divided highway. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Let's go to line number 5, or line number 6. 6 it is. Edgar, you're on the air.
Hello.
Hi there.
How's it going, Paddy?
Best kind. How about you?
Good, boy.
Good.
Paddy, that announcement you made there, divided highway starting in Whitburn and going to Sutter Harbour, as far as you know. Anyway, you can find out when that's starting, or I got people calling me about it, wondering about it, and looking for jobs and whatever.
Yeah, so what we do know is a 30-year agreement, 40 kilometres of Twin Highway, Whitburn, Bellevue, 15-kilometre stretch, Grand Falls, Windsor to Bishops Falls. Okay, so the RFP is this year, construction begins next year.
Next year?
Yeah.
So don't start this year like you were saying.
No, the initial announcement always said construction was beginning in 2025. So they're going to the market now with what they call the DBFOM model: design, build, finance, operate, maintain, and no construction to begin until next year.
Oh, yeah. So they're not even going to own the highway.
I don't really know exactly how this works, but basically, whatever private company comes in here will be responsible from everything, from design to actually applying the blacktop, to finance it, to operate it, snow clearing, salt or ice management. So, yeah, basically, they're in charge of the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah, and people that got land alongside the highway, there's going to be something going on.
Yeah, how it's going to work regarding the land, I don't really know, because there's no design in place yet, so I'm really not sure how they're going to handle it. But there's a few areas there, just because I drove to Gander not so long ago and was thinking about that on the way. A bunch of the stretch of the two expanded, or the expanding of the divided highway, is pretty much outside developed areas, so I don't think that's going to be a big concern.
Well, you don't know so much about it as I do, but
probably not.
Yeah, well, I know a nice bit about it because I got friends of mine get cottages and cabins like 800-900 feet and closer to that highway. So I don't know what's going to happen there. Like, is the government going to get involved with it, or just pass it on over to this constructor that's coming in and saying, "Hey, get out"?
Well, the contractor wouldn't have that type of authority, but the government would. So I guess that's an excellent question.
Well, the government would, but the government is us, right?
It is.
We are the government.
Pretty much.
So I can't see the government telling this guy from Portugal Cove that he got to move or take his cabin and go. I think that would be up to the people that's around there, I would say.
Well, like, for instance, we're having this conversation here in the city. You talk about the school in Kenmount Terrace. The government does have the ability, as heavy-handed as it is, to expropriate land. I mean, we've done it. Remember the big story when the government just rushed through a piece of legislation and we expropriated the mill, the Abitibi mill?
Yeah, okay, well, where's the people? Where's the people that are paying all those taxes and paying the government? Where are those people's decisions, or do they be asked decisions? You take the... Moose fence is going up where? Salmon Line, as someone said?
Yeah.
Where's it going, Salmon Line? Is it a critical area, or is there more critical areas than that? Like, who are they trying to find out this information from? RCMP, fire departments, tow truck drivers, which that would be the first tree I'd go to.
I'm pretty sure there's well-documented evidence about the most notorious hotspots for moose vehicle collisions.
Yeah, but who are they asking about the hot spots? Are they asking people in the Confederation building, or are they asking people that are out there at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning doing this work?
Oh, yeah.
RCMP, tow truck drivers, and fire departments.
Yeah, an ambulance, the paramedics. So, yes, of course. Where else could they get it?
Emergency responders. Like, who would you ask any better than the people that's on spot within 15, 20 minutes, half hour, whatever? Or are they sitting down around the table at the Federation building saying, "Oh, I think it should go here because I got 3 aunts and 3 uncles up there up the shore."
No, I think I can put my hands on information regarding how many moose vehicle collisions have happened where.
Yeah, I could too, because I was towing for 45 years and my father before me.
Okay.
I can tell you exactly where. I can tell you the numbers. I got them all wrote down. Where's the hot spots? I know exactly where they are. And I can point out right now, drive through from Whitburn to Southern Harbour, and I can show you every place that there was a moose accident, and every place there was a moose accident and a fatality, and every place that someone went off the road or whatever. I can still remember it all.
Okay, so are you telling me that where they're planning on putting that moose fence is not a bad spot?
Yeah, it's not. No, it's not. No. It's not a bad spot, but I think there's more important spots that they could try this fencing than Salmon Air Line. There's no traffic on Salmon Air Line.
Sure there is, lots.
Well, what traffic's on Salmon Air Line? Only people going to their cabins on weekends.
Or in the St. Mary's.
Well, St. Mary's. I mean, how big is St. Mary's?
Look, you might know a lot about where you live, but I know plenty about the Salmon Air Line, and there's tons of traffic on the Salmon Air Line.
Yeah, well, on the weekends it is, yeah. But from Monday to Thursday, not. No.
All right.
I serviced the area for 45 years, I know.
I've driven the area for 50 years as well.
Yeah, I know you're from up there. Yeah, you're a daily. You're from up there. I know it's all about up in that area. But like I said, I serviced the area, and I've done a lot of work up there for the RCMP and any other roadside assistance. There's 8 or 9 different companies of roadside assistance. I've done a lot of work for all those guys.
Okay.
And like I said, I know where the hot spots are. But nobody don't ask nothing. They just go ahead and says we're going building this and building that and whatever.
I appreciate the time. If you had to pick,
more your time.
No, it's no big deal. If you had to pick one spot, 1 6-kilometer or 1 10-kilometer stretch for the fence, where should it be?
Bellevue to Chapel Iron.
Okay.
Yep.
I appreciate the time, Edgar. Thanks for the call.
Hey, buddy. No problem.
All the best. All right, bye-bye. All right, very likely the final word of the week goes to line number 2. Good morning, George. You're on the air.
Thank you, Paddy, for taking my call. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you as well.
Paddy, I just received in the mail a little while ago a brochure from the city of Mount Pearl and making recommendations into the next municipal plan. And I ran across some words there like disabilities and mobility issues. And I don't know, I was out this morning for a walk. I have to use a white cane, and unfortunately, I can't use a sidewalk because the driveway cutouts are just impossible for me to manipulate. So I have to walk on the pavement. But you know what? It's busier on the asphalt than it is on the sidewalks. I always thought the sidewalks were made for people, but there's more and more people now taking to the asphalt. I see ladies with their newborn babies out with their strollers, and the husbands as well out taking their turn with the stroller. And here they are out in the asphalt. They're saying that they're popping up and down on the sidewalks, and some guy with a wheelchair, somebody else with a white cane, somebody else with a walker. And I'm not condemning Mount Pearl as such because they've got wonderful walking trails, but you're not going to take a walking trail to go to your corner store for some food item you might need or anything like that. But it's the whole scenario and where we go, and the words accessibility, disability, mobility, they all flow off people's lips so easily, and it's wonderful when they're speaking in front of a crowd and even in a private conversation. But as you get closer to action, there's no action. We're talking about the same sidewalks. I was just up the street there this morning, and contractors up there putting in sidewalks, and they're the same sidewalks that have been used here for 50 to 100 years, I guess. The high ridge, the cutout for the driveway, and it's taken away the mobility issue, and I don't know if people are not grasping that, like our municipal leaders, maybe some of them should be using my white cane. I don't know. It's just unbelievable that you can't notice this stuff and not do anything about it.
Do something such as?
Well, find a different design sidewalk, Paddy.
Okay.
There's a number of different design sidewalks. The one up in Galway, say that's an ideal one, and probably takes up too much land down in an area like, say, Lake Mount Pearl, where it's almost land cramped. But there are other ones where you have your driveway pitch all the way along your sidewalk. There's none of these ups and downs, none of these high curbs. It's you're tapered out to your street like a driveway all the way along, so that people can walk, and stay out of the way of the traffic. Because there are times, especially I know here around my street, that traffic is horrendous. Is people, I don't know where people are going to with 70 and 80 kilometers an hour in a municipal street. They're just flying. But Paddy, I want to go on from there too.
George, unfortunately, we're 20 seconds short of 12 o'clock noon here. So if you'd like to finish your thoughts, would you be able to do it with us on Monday morning?
Sure can.
Terrific. I look forward to it.
Because I tell you where I'm heading to, Paddy. I'm heading to the Trailway here in Mount Pearl. Okay, and where it ends at Commonwealth Avenue.
Sounds good.
Okay, brother.
Thanks, George.
Talk to you Monday morning.
Sounds great. Bye-bye. All right, there you go. Big thanks to all hands who support the programme. And yes, happy Father's Day, lads. We will indeed pick up this conversation again on Monday morning right here on VOCM and Big Land FM's Open Line. On behalf of the producer, David Williams, I'm your host, Paddy Daly. Have yourself a safe, fun, happy weekend. Talk Monday. Bye-bye.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.